Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this City Council meeting of the Greenwood City Council this Monday, June the 7th, 2021 at 7 p.m. Ms. Derry, would you call the roll, please?
I.C. Brown.
Here.
Ralph Maker's absent. Rob Powell.
Here.
Dale McDaniel.
Here.
Tim Terry.
Here.
Mike Terry.
Here.
There's a quorum.
Thank you. Would everyone please stand? We will have our prayer led by Brother Ronnie Deal from Greenwood First Baptist, followed by our pledge by our Chief, Stuart Clark. Let's pray together.
God, we thank you so much for the blessings that we enjoy. We thank you for the opportunity we have to gather like this in a free nation. We thank you for our community, Lord, and I want to thank you tonight for the leadership that you provide for us, for many, many people that serve in this community. We ask your blessings on them. We pray for wisdom and guidance and direction as decisions are made. And Lord, we give you all the praise and glory for the blessings that we do receive. And we pray this in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. You may be seated. We've got to get this done in one inning. We're down 2-0. And it's the top of the fourth. Anyway, not that anybody cared during it. Thank you. We will move on to approval of minutes for the May 3rd, 2021 regular council meeting.
Make that motion.
Thank you. Motion?
Second.
And a second?
Mr. Brown.
Yes.
Powell.
Yes.
Mr. Daniel.
Yes.
Tim Terry.
Yes.
Mike Terry.
I'll abstain. No one here.
All right. Yeah.
Thank you. Recognitions and acknowledgements. We are down 2-0. Stop the fourth. Stop the fifth. Still 2. Thank you. Sorry. Committee reports. You have what has been submitted by those. I know Kenny is not here tonight. I think he has a written report. No, I thought I saw one. Sorry. Again, as always, if you have questions about anything that's not, someone that's not here, let me know or let Danielle know. We'll try to get you some answers. First, I don't think Joel is not
He's not going to be here,
Okay.
but I'm here.
You are here? Okay. Thank you. Water Wastewater Commission, Mr. Bailey is here, I think. So anything from you, sir?
You got a written report,
Okay.
it's all in there.
Any questions, concerns from council on these reports? You take a look at them. If not, everybody good? Okay, we'll move on to citizen forum. I have no signatures tonight on the citizen forum, so we'll move from that to financial report. Mr. Bush.
Well, I guess I'll go quick. Give you the highlights. You do have the report in your packet, on your tablet. The city sales and use tax, May over same period, May 21 over 20 is up 25.3% for the month of May. Cumulative growth in 2021 is up 18.2%, which is 8.2% above budget. Budget was at 10%. Probably the biggest surprise is the county sales tax, May over May of 20, 21 over 20, is up 37% for just the 1 month over previous year's month. Cumulative growth of 2021, we're up 14.1%, which is 8.5% above budget. So both of them are running about 8.5% above what we anticipated the collections to be. Our budget for county sales tax was 5.6%. And in looking at it, it reflects that other cities are within Sebastian County, they're also doing very well in their taxable sales. So we're benefiting and they're benefiting from collectively an increased sales. A lot of that, though, you remember it's 2 months ago, and that's when that stimulus came out, so a lot of people spent it. That's an assumption we're making, but it's an educated guess. On the AP tax, May 21 over May of 20 is up 3.18%. That's normal. That's about what we normally would anticipate seeing. Cumulative growth, though, for 2021 is up 10.98% for the A&P. We budgeted 8%, so it's 2.95% above budget. The monthly average prepared food sales total, which is dividing our collections of A&P tax into the, by 1%, gets you the amount that they're generating the sales tax off of. The monthly average prepared food sales has increased from $1,079,000 in 2018 to currently $1.498 million in 2021. That's a 38.82% increase in the 4 years. It's generated, as I'll remind you, from three key factors. One is a growth in locations that are subject to A&P tax over those 4-year period. An inflation impact, which is price increases that occurred on the products over those 4 years, and increased sales during that period of 2018 over 21. All of those are factors that go into why there's an increase in the tax base for us. Moving on from the tax revenues report, I'll go to the balance sheet. You have one in your, a hard copy in your packet, yes. I put that in there because the one that's on your actual computer there, or your tablet, is the balance sheet for just the water sewer. I pulled, because I give the water sewer department's report just prior to doing yours, I pulled that one into your electronic form. So I printed off the actual city's balance sheet. You have that in your packet as a hard copy. The two things that I wanted to point out there, I picked out to talk about was in the long-term debt, the principal balances on our operational loans. They'll be on the right-hand side, first page down on the bottom. You'll see the fire department pumper principal balance is $203,000. And the fire property principal balance right now on our operational loan is $73,000. The payoff on the fire pumper is July of 2023. So right about halfway through that. And that is a 3% loan. We have a 2.5% loan on the fire property, and that is payoff 9/2022 next year, September. So that's just an update on the operational loans that we have as far as our debt is concerned. On the unaudited consolidated financials, I just want to give you a highlight of where we are as far as our surplus deficit for May, for the whole year, and against budget. So the city revenues, we have actual collections in May of $1,000,004. Our 2021 actual is $6,000,002 on a budget of $18 million. We collected 33.85% of our budgeted revenues, which is very good at this point of the year. A lot of our collections come later. Total city expenses, we have budgeted, we have a May actual of $876,000 spent, which gives us a surplus for the month of May of $608,000. In 2021, our actual for the whole year, so far year to date, is a $5,000,002 as far as our expenses, or $1,041,000 surplus for the year. And that's on a budget of a deficit of 2.51, mostly coming from capital. And I give you the capital listed there too. For May, we actually only spent $70,000 of our capital budget. We spent $70,000 on capital and capital improvement items. For the year, we've spent under $500,000, $480,000, which is only 10.96% of our $4.3 million that we're going to spend. And I have had conversations with the sewer department, and there's a lot of expenses that are coming down the pipeline, pardon the pun, relatively soon. That sounds like something the mayor would say.
Quite funny, by the way.
Yeah, thank you. All right. I also want to point out that if you do compare the balance sheet for sewer against the balance sheet for the city, total asset value for the sewer and water and sewer department is $24 million. The total assets, as you see on your balance sheet in front of you, is $34 million for the whole city. So water, sewer is about 2/3 of the city's total assets is held by the water sewer department. It's just an interesting fact. I didn't know you knew that. As far as our cash flow is concerned, it's the last thing I want to point out is that for the month of May, we increased our cash by $540,000, a little over $500,000. That is the largest increase we've had year to date. Our largest previous was in January of $142,000. So our total cash increase for the year is $877,000, slightly under $1 million. We're sitting on $14,235,000, and I broke it out by each of the individual accounts that the city holds on the next couple of pages. So you can see exactly where that money is and how it's coming from. Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. We're in pretty good shape, for sure, considering the year, last year. Thank you, sir. Moving on to agenda additions, we do have two. Number 5, if council will approve of this, is planning rezone. This is through the planning department, rezone of Kevin Moss property, how I have it listed. And then number 6 is police department, and this area has the actual.
That was a resolution to amend the police policy handbook.
Thank you. Council's good with that, we'll add those two. By the way, I'm really not trying to hurry because of the ballgame. This is city business, we can take it serious, but I'm kind of.
Nothing wrong with it, right along.
We are now old business, there is none. Move on to new business, planning department, Mr. Bell, confirmation of commission membership reappointments.
Mayor, Council, Mr. Terry. First item is confirmation of our planning commission members, Travis Bartlett, Colt Rogers, and Robert McKinney. I'd like to have those confirmed for another term on the planning commission.
They're
All at the same time?
Yes.
You're good with that, Ken? Do I hear a motion?
Yeah, I make a motion to approve these planning commission members to
Second.
Same pay?
same pay.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lester?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you,
Thank you.
brother. As I was saying that, I thought they actually do. Next item is planning also.
Council, the second item is repeal and replace the ordinance 2017 for our building permit fee schedules for first reading. You have a copy of this in front of you. The yellow highlighted areas are the areas that have been modified. The reason that we did this was to bring us more in line with the Fort Smith fee schedule. An extensive amount of work on checking with the permitting in Fort Smith. There was always the question of whether we figured our permit on heated and cooled, and they had it under the roof, and so checking with them, we mirrored them the same way, exactly the same way that they are. And this also gives the somebody the ability to go online and look at this and actually come up with what a permit is going to cost them. It makes it easier for them to understand. If you have any questions on how we arrived at these figures, under us here tonight, we'll be glad to answer them. We would like to put this on for first reading and give you gentlemen time to study it. Like I say, ask any questions that you might have on it. I think this will settle the argument once and for all, whether or not Greenwood is more expensive to build in than Fort Smith, or whether we're cheaper than Fort Smith. We can say we are the same as Fort Smith.
What have we been?
We have figured this on heated and cooled.
Have we been more expensive or cheaper?
The way that it came out, it was pretty close. But we wanted to get exact, because that, like I said, the question of, you could have a small house with a huge garage,
and that would not be heated and cooled. And we'd be figuring on square footage, heated and cooled. So, of course, this would figure under the roof. And so we have got the areas where the heated and cooled part of your house has got the permitting cost, as you see there. But for your garages, outbuildings, patios and things like that, that's under the roof. That is at a cheaper per square foot price.
The highlighted is added language.
Yes, or changed.
It's added and changed. So it's the new language.
Yeah, that's new language.
Is that, I guess these prices for the heat and cool and under roof are, I mean, are they, again, I guess pretty current? I mean, I just heard that, cost is
Yes,
just going up.
and, we've looked at it, we talked to some of our contractors here in town, and basically came up with what we would figure the cost per square foot would be using these rates, and they agreed we were right on what they said they were figuring right now. We talked to one contractor that, he says, I just build on cost plus, and he said, here's what I figure my costs are right now. He says, you're right on.
I'll make a motion to put this on for the first reading by title only.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Ralph?
Yes.
Mr. Denham?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Lance Terry? Already covered. An ordinance repealing Greenwood ordinance number 20-17 and all other ordinances in conflict therewith, establishing fees for electrical, plumbing, construction, blasting, and special hauling, mechanical and demolition permits, and road purposes.
Thank you, and thank you, council. This is going to be such an important tool. I know I get to witness ever so often the complaints and the issues and the questions and the comments about us being competitive or not competitive. And I think I was going to answer your question, Sonny did a good job answering. I think there's been times where we've been on both sides, a little bit cheaper, a little bit higher, depending on what it means.
I'd like to be higher than y'all,
So
so
it's good to build. I understand.
because you get I'd like to be more expensive if you had to do it down here.
Okay. I don't even know. I don't know how to respond. Because you don't want it to be any bigger.
You go home and think about it.
Okay. Okay. All right. Thank you.
We got 2 more readings.
Yes, for sure.
Certainly.
It is the Sunny Bell Show tonight, so in case you're wondering about that.
No.
By the way, you just hit a home run, not that I'm watching anything.
No, I don't.
So, okay.
Gentlemen, what you got in front of you is Greenwood's first HUD. It's a plant unit development that is being proposed for the area out to the east of town that is currently a large matching area between Alpha Packaging and Chisholmville. It will consist of 251 lots. It will be a planned subdivision where it will have all the features of housing that we currently offer in Greenwood, from duplexes to cottage homes, to starter homes, to mid-size homes, to high-end homes. It will also offer an additional 2.5 miles of walking trail, asphalted walking trail, and green spaces throughout the subdivision. In those green spaces, there will be pavilions similar to the ones in Bell Park, so it will look like the same design. Those will be provided by the developers, and then the walking trail and the green spaces will be dedicated to the city once it's accepted by the city. The areas on this side will consist of duplexes. We've got cottages running across here, and this is intended so far as kind of retirement type cottages. And then your other homes, mid-sized homes here, and your higher-end homes around this area here. This area here, where you see this coming in here. This is industrial drive that comes in and turns. Mike McAllister has property right here. Gary Hayes has property here, and that, in fact, that's Gary Hayes' property there. It's just an empty lot. But we had our first technical meeting today with the utilities. So far, we haven't had any issues come up. The first phase would be this area right here. And we feel like we're good engineering-wise as far as water and sewer for that area. We're looking at, and we're going to have to get some engineering done on what is going to be required for the total project. There might be some another water tank that we have that is currently offline. It might need to be brought back online. There might be lift stations involved. There might be pump stations or whatever. But the first phase, we feel like we're in good shape to go ahead and move forward on that. And then while we're doing the engineering on the others. But our investors are here tonight. Sean Land, Buddy Lloyd, Jamie Brown. They would love to answer any questions that you might have about this. We're excited about it. All of the directors have looked at this. We're feeling good about it. We're moving forward. We will continue to study on this. It will go in front of the Planning Commission at its next meeting, and then I will come back to you next month at the regular council meeting for hopefully for approval of the preliminary plat so they can get started on it. Do you have any questions?
Is that our service areas, water service?
Yes. We have water lines that run across this area. Now, we are going to confirm that to make sure. We don't want any hiccups. You know, Milltown Washburn has got some interest in that area, but from what I understand, they can't handle they can handle the volume. And so we, like I said, we already have water that runs across here, and it feeds over into the Greenwood area. The triplexes over there are feeding off that. Sewer also goes along here. I think that's a force main, but sewer also comes up here, and you see a 20-foot sewer easement here. Mayor's going to contact Gary Hayes about possibly getting a street easement through there and give them another exit out here, and also the ability to run your walking trail out here, then connecting that to Greenwood, Kings Mountain, and the other subdivisions out in that area. This is, we have looked for a shot in the arm for Greenwood for a while. This seems to be coming in at a great time. One, it's just something that the city needs. Two, our traffic relief is still moving forward. And three, with the announcement the other day of the expansion of the airport up there with the fiber program that's going to bring in a tremendous amount of revenue to the river valley. And as you know, Greenwood always gets a residual off of that too.
This meets all of our current subdivision regulations.
It will. It'll check every box that we have on there. It'll be like that. It'll follow the PUD, and everything will be checked and checked again.
This is all in our water district?
Mr.
Yeah, I believe it is. I went back and did some research back to annexations, and there was a large annexations that included the industrial park, all the way down Highway 10, up down Chisholmville Road, north side Chisholm Road, all the way to Port Chaffee, up to Greenwood, and I can't tell you exactly how it gets back down to industrial park, but it does. So this area came to city limits in 1984, That's Milltown Washington come into existence, I think, in October '88. We have a water line through there. One of the fire hydrants says 1987 on it, means that it was manufactured in '87. So line was probably put in late '87, '88, maybe early '89. So between it came into city limits, before they came into existence, we had a water line in there for years, maybe before they came into existence, and they cannot serve with a 2-inch line. For those 3 reasons, I think we're okay. But we're going to meet with them later.
Mr. Bailey and myself had a meeting with the director at Washburn Milltown next week, I believe.
Wednesday.
That is fireman
Will Robinson.
Will Robinson.
Robinson.
I said fireman because he's a fireman. Trying to.
He's an employee of the city.
That's correct.
But Rob, I think we're good. Think.
So you're meeting with one of your employees, although part-time.
Correct.
Any questions, gentlemen?
So, as far as the 75-foot, I guess, width of the lots and stuff, I mean, have you abandoned that or whatever? I'm trying to think of that.
Well, with the PUD, you have the variable lots. The PUD allows like cottage homes, 0 lot lines and things like that, and so those will be taken in consideration for those different parts of the project. I forgot to mention that also this project will have an HOA. It'll be totally controlled by the HOA. The only thing that the city is going to be asked to do, as far as maintenance, will be the walking trail and the green space. Everything else will be maintained by them.
I may have missed it, Sonny, but will it be built in phases?
Yes, the first phase is the road that goes in here around, and like that. It's the dark line that you see. So I think it's 71 lots in the first phase.
Is there, we had phases before and kind of got burned on them a little bit, like Kings Mountain Ranch, we had no way out. It's obviously, there's probably 4 or 5 lots to be developed that will never get developed because they're expensive.
And to make sure that didn't happen, that is one reason why you see this auxiliary road up here. If it came down to it, that would be the ability to move from one side to the other. We don't think that's going to be necessary, but it's put there just in case it is.
And the infrastructure that comes to it, the sizing of water and sewer will be able to handle the whole
Yes.
thing.
Everything will be looped in there according to the water and sewer specifications. To be sure, like I told you the other day, everything will be curb and gutter, sidewalks, plus the walking trail, street lights and things like that. Everything that we want in a subdivision, this one's going to have it.
So we've been kind of bit before, and the assurance goes both ways. People plan stuff and then it doesn't get built, and then it becomes a problem. On the other side, if we have developers come in and size everything to do their phase 1 and 2 and 3 or whatever, and then it takes time to develop, and maybe it's slow, and maybe there's a recession, and then we've given that stuff away before. And then they come back and furious that we've given away their infrastructure. And we did it with Paul Walker on phase 2 of Forest Hills, and we give it to the developer of Kings Mountain Ranch. And that was not good on our part. So assurances go both ways. We need to be assured that, I kind of wonder, what is our assurance that it will get complete? And then they need assurance that we won't give their infrastructure improvements away during a time where building gets stretched out.
Again, I think the timing is great
I do too.
because of the housing shortage. Of course, we are facing right now a super cost in building. I feel like that should level off and come back down, but Again, I go back to the announcement of the pilot program out at the airport. I think that we will see some residual off of that. And two, Greenwood needs affordable housing, and they need housing for older people that don't care to have a large yard maintenance. And we need some higher end homes too. So this covers all those bases.
Related to all that discussion, what is the proposed timeline overall for the various phases? When would we expect completion to?
I don't know how I could answer that, Daniel. Of course, that's, as soon as somebody buys the house, I don't know how you can forecast how fast they're going to sell.
Mr. Brown, if you don't, would you mind coming to the microphone? Thank you, sir.
This is Danny Brown, he's one of the developers.
Danny Brown. What we're estimating, based on talking to realtors, based on doing some different formulas and math, we're hoping that phase one, which again is 71 homes, is done in about 15 to 18 months. That's all of phase, actually, I'm sorry, that's more than 71 because technically we have 3 phases. We've got phase one, then we've got phase 1B and phase 1B. And we've broken it up because if these houses sell quicker, we can just add a couple more streets, just a little bit more, and we start phase 1B and we go there. If these houses sell quicker, we've got another, I call them wings, the wing over here, but we can do more of these in the first phase. The plan is to have all of phase one in 18 months. And so that's actually more than 71 houses. It's going to be aggressive and we're going to have to push to get it done. But that's our plan is phase one, 18 months. It may be 2 years, but it's 18 months to 2 years. And then once we start phase two, we're hoping about the same thing. Hopefully it'll be a little bit quicker because we've already got the ball rolling and everything's done. So 4 years, whole thing complete.
And talking to real estate salespeople here recently, I've got real estate salespeople that say they have no listings. That it's the first time in their career that they have 0 listings because things sell so fast. And so this gives them an opportunity to really promote this.
I think it might, if it's okay, the appropriate time to ask Mr. Purvis to mention can you talk about a little bit what you've been appointed to as far as with the, or not?
It's not a secret. It'll fall in and get a pocket full of catfish kind of thing.
Right.
The Western Arkansas Planning Development District set up a new agenda planning, leadership planning committee here a few weeks ago, and they had me to be on it, sure. We had our first meeting over Zoom, and not our Zoom meetings, but I at least got my microphone to work for this one. And the idea came up of we don't have a good liaison presence from the communities to the base. And we've got people moving in there to go, well, where do I go? What do I do? Where do I work? Where do I eat? Where do I live? And I had done some liaison work like that many years ago with Little Rock Air Force Base. And I said, well, I've done a little. So that got me volunteered. So now me and one other person of the subcommittee to put together a plan for how do we communicate with these new people coming in here. Of course, this was right before the announcement came in. We were talking about the people that are coming in and out all the time. What I'm seeing is we're looking at this year, a lead team coming in from Taiwan. Probably next year, 100 to 150 people coming in. And the next year, another 300 to 500 people coming in, a combination of U.S. military personnel, Taiwanese, and then behind that, we'll start with Finland and Sweden and several others. So it's going to give us an opportunity to have a direct input. I met with folks at the Reserve Center last week, talk about first steps so we can set up communications. How do you get to these guys? How do you talk to them? We've got a plan that we'll probably have to sit down and talk to the AFP Commission about a little bit, so maybe we can do some marketing. But we've got a plan to begin that attention. So at least by being in the right meeting at the right time, we're going to have a foot in the door. We're trying to communicate with folks from home.
Thank you, sir.
And two, on top of this, consider what's going on out at Chapman Crossing. I mean, with the med school out there, the Baptist Hospital is building their rehab center out there that's supposed to be just the state of the art. These people are moving into those facilities too. Each one of those factories out there seem to be either doubling in size or growing at a tremendous rate. So again, it being with the mayor and I are on the regional alliance and serve on several committees that look at the River Valley as a whole, not just Fort Smith, not just Odo, and not just Van Buren, but the whole River Valley. And it's amazing what this area is looking at as far as growth in the next 10 years. So I want Greenwood to be ready to take part of that.
John, I think you were standing up a while ago.
Yeah.
I think, so before you speak, I mean, come on up.
Yeah, I'll come over.
But I think it is important, I'm not trying to interrupt you, but I think it's, give us
Water and sewer out there. Water, we gotta do two things. One's 100% certain we gotta do, but we already started on it. We gotta get a 12-inch line from the water plant down the hill, down to Highway 10, and we budgeted design last year. I believe we finished the design last year. We're finished now. Aren't we working on easements or?
They're doing surveys.
Plans. So that's already underway. We gotta get a 12-inch line down the hill from the water plant down to Highway 10. There's a 12-inch runs all the way up past the, to about the industrial park, but we gotta get a large line down to that line. And we may need to do a little extension from the end of the industrial park, at least where they hook up. Easy. Well, one's not so easy. We're well on the way. The second part's easy. We got some motivated people want to give us easements on that one, I'm sure. Sewer. I think Greg just told me we got a main 12 or 14 or 15-inch trunk line down Highway 10 coming in toward the plant. We got to get to it, and to get to it, we're not sure. So that may be a little. We're going to talk about funding an impact study to see how our infrastructure can support this, what we have to do. We'll come up with the amount at our meeting later this month. We'll do a budget amendment at the next meeting to cover the cost of that. We'll pay 100%, not expect any help from the developer. And we'll do a budget amendment for the design, for the splash pad, and for Hawkins Weir to do the impact statement, the water and the sewer, make sure we're good on that. The sewer, still a little bit of question mark, but no, we can't figure it out for a little bit of money.
Y'all will know all that in 2 or 3 months.
Depends on how fast Hawkins Weir get this stuff done. I mean,
They're needing answers probably pretty quick.
yeah, I understand.
They're probably wanting to get going,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, the first we really heard about this in detail was a week ago. So, and I asked our guys how much they thought. They didn't want to give me an estimate. We would have voted on it a week ago, but they didn't want to guess. So we'll vote on it next, and then y'all do your budget amendment, pass it, and we'll get Hawkins Weir with priority. Of course, we got a few other things priority. We got the water line coming down as priority, the impact studies in priority, and then we got splash pad design priority. We got a few priorities to them. Any questions?
Yeah, you're talking about sewer lines in the ground, but capacity at the plant's okay also?
That's a very good question. Let me give you, our plant was designed for 1.9 million gallons per day capacity. And since we only produce and buy on average 700,000 gallons a day, you would think we'd be golden, but you'd think wrong. All the infiltration in the ground, we sometimes go over 4 million. We can do it, Greg Frost does, we can do it for 4 million and still meet everything required to do pretty readily. Above 4 million, gets to be a little tough, and that's one thing we're going to look at as part of this. The good news is that all these people, these 250 homes, are only going to produce probably 30,000 gallons of sewage a day. Once it's all built out, it's the infiltration causing the problem, not just development. That's why we're trying to get some of the older pipes that are in the wet areas, like Indian Hills, fixed so they won't take on so much water. And may have to look at a plant expansion or something, but we really will need to get the pipes fixed.
you're fixing pipes right now in Indian Hills.
Right, but that's only maybe a third of Indian Hills, maybe,
And a new neighborhood should be built to code and specifications, so there shouldn't be any infiltration.
One, it's not in a friggin' swamp full of water where all the water in the world flows to the going pipe. Two, it's not gonna have clay lines. And so between those two, it should be immensely better. We have other clay lines in Greenwood that are a problem, but they're up on hills where the water flows out. Indian Hills, the water just sits there, it sinks in the ground and drains into the sewers for weeks after heavy rains.
Thanks, sir.
Make a comment.
Yes, sir.
I was on the council when we built the sewer plant, approved it. The figure we were given then was that plant, the plant was physically capable of supporting a population of 25,000 people. And that was supporting the population without all the infiltration aspects. So, as you're saying, the plant isn't the problem. It's the lines leading to the plant.
And we'll never get rid of all the infiltration. You never get rid of it all, you just get it down where it's less of a problem.
Sonny, I see that, basically out of 250 homes, we usually have 2 entrances, right, to the subdevelopment?
You will have, here, you have an auxiliary, exit there.
Where does that road go to?
Right now it goes nowhere.
Okay. I'm saying, where can it go to? Because I don't really know any kind of.
There is a road that goes over here to the dam.
So there's right there by Wade Dunn's.
You know,
So
where
it's
There's
just
another house at the end, I guess.
So, right, so it's really an unapproved road, right? Correct.
Yeah, and again, we're looking at doing this one here to give us another.
And I've already spoken to Mr. Hayes. We've not agreed on anything, but he is very, very open to, I just said, Gary, what do you think about this? And
Yeah.
give an easement. And he's like, come talk to me.
Yeah.
That's what we do.
Well, that's what I'd like to see is an easement over there on Mr. Hayes' property, but also I'd like to see how we're going to provide, is that a public road there by Wade Dunn's, or is that considered a private drive?
I don't know the answer to that. I think it's private drive right now, but I'm not sure. You know, Mr. New Guy?
I think it's private.
Okay, I think so too. It's certainly not up to our standard,
No.
street standards, so I'm assuming it's a private drive. Now, the good news is, this does correctly, is this correct, Mr. Brown, that phase 1 includes both in and out
Yes.
on 10 Spur?
I'll tell you that.
Okay, so right off the bat, you get more than 2 other subdivisions in town that are lacking in that.
Well, I'm highly
Ingress
interested.
and egress.
I'm highly interested in this
Medium.
because
It's on the
this
front.
gives the
What
ability of
roads
somebody.
are you talking about?
The Oaks and Kings Mountain.
But
Is there?
with this exit up here, it
No,
gives the
but they don't-
ability
they
to
only have
get out
one way in,
to
one
Ware
way out.
Road without going
I'm
up
saying
again
it-
and then back up.
And therefore, they can no longer build in there. If those were built according to what they should, I guess I am. We should have had an in and out of both of those. And we don't. So we fixed that problem first phase.
Yes.
That's where I was going with insurance that eventually gets completed.
Yes.
Because if it doesn't get completed, they decide, well, that's kind of expensive, we'll just abandon it, we'll kind of throw it out as a teaser. Because that's what happened in Kings Mountain. Throw it out as a teaser and then it just doesn't get done.
The road, no, again, I may be wrong, the road, the in and out is built as phase 1? or not?
Yeah.
Okay, so,
Well, I just think you want to be sure that, phase 1 has your both drives. I think what we need to be sure of as a city, once we go beyond phase 1, maybe even like you said there, Jamie, on the top wing, we need to give that third entrance.
Yes, that third entrance over here over towards Ware.
A contingency of anything beyond phase 1 is we get this third one again.
Sure.
I think that's what.
And we've even designed, we've got it currently designed with these 2 lots right here extremely large, so that we don't have to redesign all the lots, we just have to widen that easement. So it's set up so that we can add that.
We're wanting to make sure our upper end homes around the outside have access to the industrial park.
Well, I just want to make sure,
It's
if
a way.
something happens to one of the, on this highway down here, you've got 250 homes trapped with no exit out the backside of that.
And you've actually even got a third entrance to the subdivision, but it's not to this part, but to these 25 homes, cottage homes into phase 2. But yeah, that's just for future expansion.
This also would give us the ability to serve these lots up here with water and sewer that are undeveloped right now. You know, like Mike's property up there and Gary Hayes' other property, the ice plant up there. That would give them us the ability to have sewer in that area there, which would increase the value of their property.
Sonny, this will meet our sidewalk regulations, correct?
Yes.
And so it won't be an island, so where those exits are, they'll be followed with sidewalks so kids can get in and out, not be trapped in an island.
The only thing, like I told you the other day, there's not a whole lot of trees over there they have to worry about saving. I think there's one tree on that whole lot. But
I bet they get it.
Sonny, you started to say something a while ago, and you got interrupted. You talked about, because it ain't just sewer and water that this is going to impact. It's all across the board, streets, fire, police, whole 9 yards.
yeah,
ISO, everything. But you were fixing to say something about the streets, and you said that it would be no expense to the city before you got interrupted. I was trying to figure out what you were talking about.
the
Some kind of association or something?
the HOA will take over the maintenance of this subdivision.
Maintenance as in?
Where the duplexes and the cottage homes are, they will mow those lawns, they will make sure that the upkeep is there. If there is somebody that is, when you drive through some of the subdivisions, you see the ones that not taking care of their homes, that's got trash in the yard and all that, the HOA will take care of that. The city, the city could report it to them or whatever, it'll work hand in hand with it. But the main thing is that the only thing the city will maintain is this walking trail here and the green spaces that where the pavilions are.
I think the question is, are the streets going to be?
The streets is what I'm asking about.
Streets are ours.
The streets.
So that's not the only thing that we're going to maintain is the walking trail.
Yeah.
We're going to maintain the
Yeah.
streets.
I see what you're talking about, yeah.
Water, sewer.
Normal things afterwards, yeah.
So
Once we
have everything in place for
once
streets
it's
to be.
dedicated to us, then we will take over it just like any of the other subdivisions.
I guess, like Mr. Terry, I'm concerned that we have specifications in place that'll be followed, they'll be compacted, and we won't be in replacing a street in 4 or 5 years.
Hopefully not, it's, we certainly, with of course, that falls under the street department and the street director for making sure the compaction is correct and everything is built to their street specifications. The same way with sidewalks and everything else, it has to be done to our specifications, we have to sign off on it. And, if we sign out on an inferior product, then we suffer.
So the last addition we had was Gold Creek,
Yes.
and in Gold Creek, we kind of got bit because we thought it was bonded, and it turns out it wasn't bonded. They just said it was bonded, and they never really turned in the bond. And at that point, we decided, when y'all get the bond, our city attorney's gonna look at it. So we're still gonna follow that.
Oh, sure.
Well, I guess the other thing we just talked about was fire access and stuff, to me, with the streets and everything like that. I mean, is the HOA going to be in charge of making sure that there's no, cars that are parked out on the streets, kind of like, are in the other subdivisions? Because it looks like it's going to be pretty
That, of course,
compact there.
you're talking about city regulations there. If there is not a sign that says no parking, then you're allowed to park there. That is something that the city can't control. That would have to be an HOA function if they want to do parking on one side of the street or the other. I know Stuart has gone over the streets, the cul-de-sacs and things like this for fire purposes, and he has approved it. But,
I thought we had an ordinance that regulated parking in streets.
not that I know of. Like I said, if it says no parking, then you can't park there. If, it's like going up North Main, there's some areas up North Main that you wouldn't think that you could park there, but if it's doesn't have no parking sign, I don't know if the police can do anything about that.
If this subdivision has an active HOA, we don't have to worry about anything. They'll take care of everything. They're mean, but they write checks. I love HOAs.
Stuart, I see that you had your hand up, or?
I was going to tell you that the two entrances or exits go out on, Highway 10. With everything there, it meets all the requirements for code. Even with that one long road, it's one lot away from having to have that extra little fire lane. They actually don't have to put that if they cut a lot out. But I talked to him, he would rather put it in. So would it be beneficial also to have to go to the industrial park? Absolutely, but it's not a code requirement right now because of the way the configuration of the streets are. As long as they go by what they're saying they're going to do with phase one, having the two exits, then everything else, the way the phases are set up, will work out. And don't worry, if I say it's not going to work out, I'll have communication with them. We've already had 2 meetings on that, and it was not going to work out well. But that little road up on top, all they got to do is cut out one, up there on that, long cul-de-sac, I'm trying to remember what right here. This long cul-de-sac that goes up the side here. You have a little connection here. That's not necessary if they cut one lot out, or if they decide to sprinkle that area. But anyway, if they cut one lot out, then it won't be necessary. I don't think they want to do that. They'd rather put this in. So that's actually something that we're not requiring to put it in for our benefit. But everything else. Would it be nice to have something that goes out to the side here in the industrial park? Absolutely, but this is not required. You have 2 exits here. As long as they go up and they build this part here, you don't have anything that brings over the distance requirement. In fact, they could probably, unless they went up here and put that cul-de-sac in and build this, but the way this is shown, they're doing 2 connections every time. That makes any sense. The only one that doesn't have it, I said, is this one, and there's not enough lots. It's 1 lot away from being required to either be sprinkled or for them not to be able to do that. So we went over that a couple times. I've had them move a couple of hydrants around for access for us, and it's better for us to cook, but everything else is pretty good on it.
I was just wondering if the developers,
Are you still talking to me?
no, I'm just in general, all these houses are gonna be affected by it. We get complaints currently about noise coming from industrial park, especially from Alpha when the big grinder's running. People that live up by me complain about it. It should be blowing right in these folks' ears. I was just hoping that either people will be aware of that, or I guess they're gonna know when they go look at a home that's being built there. But, I mean, I don't mind extra phone calls complaining, but I'm just wondering if the guys have been out there aware of the noise pollution. And they meet all the standards. The Alpha package has done what the city's asked for over the years as far as trying to muffle
I had a
that.
complaint of somebody who lived out on Big Ridge.
Right.
And I drove out there one day at noon, rolled the windows down, turned the radio off, and I could hear out the back. I was surprised.
Yeah. If the wind's blowing a certain way, it's,
Yeah, but, is what you found out today, is that public knowledge?
As far as I know, yeah.
Okay. Alpha Packaging is planning on expansion. And what they say, double in size?
50,000 square feet.
So, while they do that, we might be able to do something to help with the noise. I don't know yet, Tim, I haven't seen anything on it. That's the first I heard about it today, but I thought when he said that, well, this might be the chance to, figure something out to stop the noise. But I agree with you.
I mean, you can try to angle the noise, having to shoot another direction, then you shoot right at Greenwood's house over there. And
It's funny, but Danielle lives across the
Right.
road from on the front side, and she does not bother with it. But here's somebody that lives out on you
Well, I
know,
can hear
all
tonight.
Yeah.
I can hear it at my house, but it's not, there's a gentleman that lives in Forest Hills that has a special needs child, I believe, and he just drives the kid
It
crazy.
can't be any worse than the bell tire across the street from mine.
I agree with that, but I feel bad for the guy because the kid,
I can assure you.
I can barely hear.
Until midnight.
Well, you're over the F-16s and up.
That's true, that's true, there you go, everything.
Sonny,
Church bells.
Yes,
we have ordinance 0010, regulating the standing and parking of vehicles on public streets and alleys. No person shall stop, stand, park vehicle on a public street or alley except when necessary to avoid conflict with other traffic. You know, on a sidewalk, in front of a public driveway, within an intersection, 25 feet, which was changed to 15 feet. In such a manner as to restrict traffic to one lane along a street or blah, blah, blah. Basically, when you obstruct traffic or obscure traffic. But we have an ordinance in
oh, yeah, we
place.
got it, but there's nothing that says that you can't park on a street unless it says no parking. Unless if you're
This
blocking
does.
traffic, it says if you're blocking traffic.
Or obscuring visibility, obstruct visibility, meaning traffic, other traffic, I mean, choking it down to one lane. If you park on the street where everybody has to go around you, you're restricting it to one lane, right?
That is an ordinance that has, we talked about before a little bit. The chief is not here tonight, he's at the ballgame. But he has addressed that too. We talked about it a little bit, and he says, how do you address it? I mean, my question is why, not picking on you, Mr. McDaniel, but I don't know why that's important to this subdivision any more than it is any other subdivision.
I don't think it is.
Okay, these streets are legal and we're gonna follow standards, but that happens all the town. And I don't care for it myself either. I mean, it's kind of.
Richard McKinney has here for that.
Yeah, he did. He pushed it out of the way, I think, so.
No, I agree. It has nothing to do with
Okay,
this.
okay, I thought we were trying
No.
to, okay. But no, I
see you brought it up.
Okay. But it is there, and if I remember the chief saying, what do I do about it? How do I go remove everybody's car as part of it?
Huge problem.
knock on the door.
Well,
I mean, you go up out there by whatever that is, by the golf course.
Yeah.
Forest Hills.
Right.
It's like a swallow course.
You know, I got run out on Cherry Bark right now, that the people have abandoned the house, but they didn't abandon the truck that's sitting out there on the driveway.
yeah.
You know, the people that, the finance company that's taking over the house, they said they don't have the authorization to move the truck. I don't have the authorization to send a tow truck out there. I think Mr. Hamby would tell me, you don't need to be doing that, but, like I said, it's sitting out there, it's got expired license, it's got all the characteristics of an abandoned vehicle, but I don't know that I have the legal ability to call the tow truck and say, come get this truck
It's in front of the house or on the street?
on the street.
There's a sign on it that says free truck.
Like the state police do out on the highway.
I don't know, Tim. Like I said, that's a Mr. Hamby question, and I would love to call up Bulldog and say, go get the thing and call it off.
What's our ordinance about abandoned vehicles?
Supposed to write a citation, and then when you go to court, the judge directs us to get it off.
And again, you write a citation, but who do you write it to? People are gone. You know,
Then show up on the truck left.
you know, I've got a complaint, as I couldn't believe it off the subject, but of a house, the grass was growing up. The lady that lived there died, and the people that lived next door, so he says, you know, you need to get them to mow the lawn. Well, who do you get in touch with? The people were, she did. You know, do I send the city over there to mow the lawn, or what? I don't know. You know, we're having to deal with those things. We deal with them on a one-on-one basis. But back to this. This, to me, it's a great project coming up. We're all working together. All the departments are working together on it. We're coming together, and I think it's going to be a great success. for the city of Greenwood.
I want to add to that, my little 2-minute speech, I guess I've given it to every commission so far. Sonny's presented this to all commissions so far, to bring it back to planning, I think, for the second time, right? So Parks has looked at it, water, wastewater, planning, AP. I was gone when he did it for AP. This, to me, and for what it's worth, is that thing that we've been talking about, all of us up here, and prior to me, for sure, for a long time. And we kind of harp on the fact that we don't have enough housing, we don't have this, and we don't have any place for it to be. This, other than, I told Mr. Brown this, other than him stealing my sports complex property, this I think is the best thing that's happened to Greenwood in a long time, or will happen to Greenwood in a long time. I want to add the fact, give you a quick update on the traffic relief project. So, because I told Mr. Brown came to me a year ago or whatever, and said, what do you think about this? And I told him he knew about the traffic relief. And without that, this could be difficult, to say the least, and congested, and adding more to problems to what we already have. So Mr. Marsh and I had a conversation with Ms. Tudor, or Director Tudor from RDOT recently, last week I think it was. We are now in the process of, here's how I say it, it's a different situation, but the bond is getting ready to pay $250,000 to RDOT for the engineering on the traffic relief. So we're going to be spending $250,000 of the bond money, which is required by the bond, by the end of this year, I believe. So we're going to get a bill here in the mail. You know, it's usually odd to get excited about a $250,000 bill, but it's good news because it forces the hand, if you will, for them to start getting something done. I've been calling for several months trying to get them to spend our money so it can be legit, and it's going. So that's happening as we getting ready to happen. So traffic, sure, there'll still be more with 251 homes, but it's going to take, as Mr. Brown said, I think you're looking at maybe 4 years or so. So we hope to have this highway built pretty close to have what you're doing over there to help with all that. If Mr. Marsh is willing to, federal
Yes, I was going to say.
American Reserve Plan.
Oh, I'll tell you in a second. There's one of the things
Yes.
that Lori told us about the federal grant that they
Yes,
applied
thank you. Yes, go ahead.
which will help. They applied for a federal grant, which according to Lori, will help with the development of the entire project rather than phase it. Because the federal grant would cover the entire cost of the project outside of our $5 million that we're contributing. But when you get federal money, it also helps you move up the totem pole to get the project started and completed. So that's an exciting piece of news. We're waiting on confirmation that they're going to get that grant. But she said it looks good.
She was very, very clear. And this is a lady that's about 4 foot tall, that's been under a great deal of pressure from a bridge that's broken. So she was actually apologetic to us for not getting back to us on this. And I said, well, you've had a few things on your mind. So yeah, that is great news. So there's that. And can you?
Oh, real quickly, there's an American Rescue Plan that's out there for federal monies that are being given to states, which are then being allocated to cities, and there's an allocation method or process. Initially, we were looking at $1.7 million. That was published, that was in the paper. Fort Smith will look like they were getting $22 million. But based on the formulary that they're settling on, we could be getting anywhere up from 1.7 to 1.9 million. There's several different areas that we could use the money for. We can use it for anything that has to do with COVID and COVID relief. But one of the things that they're saying needs to be done with the money, or could be done, is water sewer improvement, infrastructure improvements. 80% of our budget right now that is in the works for capital expenditures for water sewer right now are for maintenance and repairs and enhancements to our infrastructure. Anything that we would use this 1.9 million, and trust me, we've already budgeted 2.3 million in infrastructure repairs now. We could absorb that and shift that cost over to putting out new piping and new infrastructure to new development. So as far as the cost is concerned, we really didn't have this conversation with water sewer. This is new to them. But we know that there is federal monies that are available that we have to look at the process, which has not been fully released to us yet, about getting that money. because there's a lot of documentation, a lot of work that we have to do in order to dot our i's and cross our t's. But we're looking at help is on the way as far as the cost is concerned, so they don't have to use that money that's tucked away in city sales and use tax just for that purpose. So we can help with the lift stations and the pump stations and some of the work that may be done to the plants in order to accommodate development such as this.
So, in my opinion, again, for what it's worth, I feel very good, and there's things aligning, whether it's the stars or the moons or whatever it is, with things that are complementing this project. Traffic relief, the federal money on both sides, our money, and what he was just talking about on the reserve fund. There's just a lot of good things. I said this 3 or 4 times already. I kind of like these guys, these developers, but even if I didn't, this is still a great project. So this, I believe, and by the way, kudos to the department heads. And thank you for what you just reported on. Tom is on that, like, on it.
Charlotte.
And then Charlotte is on it more. And I'm the cheerleader for that federal money. So I watch, she's online with Municipal League every Wednesday. I believe Tom probably there too. I'm looking at it.
And then I'm communicating with them about nuggets of knowledge about it.
So that's going to happen at some point, yeah.
We're going to get.
So, and the department heads, I've asked from the get-go, guys, let's look at this project. Let's not talk about giving away the farm, so to speak, but let's talk about being open to maybe things that we've never been open to before as a city. This is a big deal. I myself have said we can't, where are we going to build? How is this going to work? Nobody's coming here. They're here. 251 homes. Sonny keeps forgetting about one, but that's okay. I lovingly refer to this as Area 251. So this is a big deal. There is a lot of things to happen that have to happen to make it work. Jamie knows that. Sorry, Mr. Brown, Mr. Lloyd, John, they all know this. But these people at City Hall are working really hard to get it together and make it work and present it back to council as a viable, real, not a shot in the dark, if you will, something that can happen, and with water and sewer and all those things that go with it. Everybody's been very supportive, and we're working hard to make it happen. So, any questions, Wolf, Mr. Bale, or anybody else, these gentlemen that are here?
I'd just like to have one of the garden on the lot, some grass.
Pick a number.
216.
216, write that down. Danielle's got a request in too, I think, for that back corner lot.
Oh, the back corner's kind of on there.
No. Anybody want on the existing pond? Thank you, Mr. Bell. Appreciate it. We'll move on. Number 4, the street budget resolution, stoplight issue at Denver Consider. And I want to interrupt you for just 1 second on this. We talked about streets for just a minute earlier, and that's certainly something to be considered. There's a lot of streets. That's a whole lot of stuff for us, the city, to think about maintaining and taking care of, as it is for fire and police and everybody else. But I had a short conversation with Mr. Grouse today about another street and another subdivision that is trash. Not to mention any names, but yes. And it's horrible, and it was never done correctly. That is to never happen again. And this man, although has not been in the street record very long, all you got to do is talk to him for about 20 minutes, and you know that he knows what he's supposed to do. He's and he'll prove that he can. So I'm real confident in street construction and maintenance from now on. Not that I haven't been before, but I think we got a great.
Well, as much as I deal with it,
we got a great new era. So go ahead.
Mayor, Ms. Derrick, council members, and Ms. Randy. In 2017, we updated the traffic light at Denver and Center. From the time it was installed till now, we've had issues with it not detecting the traffic as it pulls up to the light. So it'll hold them for a period of time before it finally releases. And in the beginning, we'd probably go 3 or 4 months with no complaints, but now we get them weekly and half for about the last 8 months. One big complaints is the school. They'll call, school buses are held up, might be a little late. So what we've done is we've contacted the company that produces this particular system. And they in turn, we tell them what's going on, and they turn us over to a tech support. We tell them what's going on, and they don't have no idea why it's doing what it's doing or how to fix it. So what we have found during this time, there's 4 things that contribute to it not detecting the vehicles. And that's rain, fog, sun glare, and dark colored vehicles. So at this point, we've done all we can do with the system the way it currently is. And they don't have a true upgrade for what we have. So in order to fix this, my recommendation would be to remove and replace with the Grid Smart system. And we currently have 3 of those systems up and running with no issues.
Where are those systems operating in?
10 with Harmony, Denver, and 71, Maine, and Center. So the only light that we have would be Coker and Center, and that's still the old loop system. And then, so when we done this one in 2017 is when the state come through and was doing some billing, and they tore up the loop. That gave us an opportunity to upgrade. And at the time that the upgrade was done, this was a system that was selected.
So that Grid Smart is who we have already.
Grid Smart, we've installed 3 of them since we've done, I think that system, first system we installed was a, it's an IT Plus. That's what's at Denver Center.
The software, are y'all familiar with the software, or does it reside on there?
Yeah, what we've done is, everything kind of leads to a camera issue. And when we call the company and talk to their tech support, tell them what's going on, they don't know why it's doing. But you would think there's certain parameters that you set in those zones. And with the cabinet open, you can watch, and you can see a dark colored vehicle approach. And so there's like 5 arrows in each lane. And only one will light up. So the system kind of knows that there's something there. But it wasn't a strong enough detection to go ahead and make a call to start counting down the other lanes to stop them and release. And so it kind of goes into a default mode. And then what it'll do is it will go ahead and release. But if they sit there and they're actually watching the traffic cycle through 2 to 3 times before they ever get to be released. But then the next vehicle that pulls up and it gets a good detection, then it will go back to normal operating mode. So, they have no way of going into the cameras and doing any kind of adjustment. But although you feel like it could be a camera problem, it could simply be a processor issue.
That's what I would say more of. I have come through there at all times of the day, but specifically like early morning hours, going to work, gotta be at 4, and I'll approach at about, not even to the dairy, it will turn from green to yellow to red. No one anywhere, I'm the only person in town. And I'll pull up and sit there. And the Denver Street light will light up with an arrow, with no one there, it will run through, and we sit there, and then finally it will cycle through, and then I'll get the green and we'll go. But I mean, it's not, I don't know, I've always wondered if like after midnight, if something clicks on in those boxes, and it goes to a different set of rules.
I think that they do have, since that's a high traffic flow, probably one of the highest ones that we have, I think that, there are certain times in the day that it will release traffic longer, right, and hold traffic. And then, of course, you're talking late at night. I mean, it's very possible to them that it can just go back to a crazy cycle.
It's very odd. I normally just run through it, but
Well, there's one big your house coming down.
It's very good because as soon as you get close to it, it turns Highway 10 yellow and boom, we're green. And I don't even have to stop. I can just go straight through it. It's kind of like the one at Coker. When you approach Coker, it shuts down 10 immediately as soon as somebody gets there, which is horrible. It'll let then the guy will come out and it'll let 3 cars go and it'll move, it'll go back. It's very strange how quick that one changes.
No, that's the grid smart.
Yeah.
That's why we want to.
I love it.
Have you ever tried to change vehicles? Because I think they're looking at you.
Fort Smith
Probably.
So Grid Smart,
Smart.
Grid Smart is the ones that, seem to be working fine.
Yeah, it's basically a single camera as opposed to one that we're talking about. Each lane it's actually 4 cameras. So, each intersection has its own camera.
Well, my vision for that one out of Denver would be in the mornings, it needs to be green northbound for an hour, just because you get people out of town. That's the whole deal. Every time you turn.
But if what time you go through there, we'll see if we can.
Don't worry about me. Don't worry about me, because I'll just go through it. I'll eat the ticket. I don't care. I ain't got time to stop. But at like 7:30 or 8, we're trying to get people out of town to work.
Yeah.
I mean, it needs to be green for a while. I understand the buses come in down Denver, but that seems to be the problem is we just can't get people out of town. The one at Coker probably needs to come out. It's really useless. I mean,
I agree with
there's no reason for that light at all. Any light of the freeway is just insanity to me, if you ask me.
Well, I thought you'd have a different perspective on that.
No, I'll never know. No, but that's always been my thought.
Better.
Yeah, for sure. I just always thought in the mornings to get traffic out and then, it just seemed like we'd get them out of town.
I mean, they do have the capability to go in there and find time to allow traffic to flow longer,
Right?
and then let other traffic come into it.
Of course, I'm a blinking red, blinking yellow guy from midnight to 6 a.m. anyway. That would be, if I was in charge, that'd be the first order of business. If I was sitting in his seat, that'd be your first job, is to make sure at midnight, those things were yellow on the main thoroughfare and it was red on the cross streets till about 6 a.m. and then they go back to normal cycle. Every city in America does it, big cities that I've gone through in the last 5 or 6 years, been fortunate to travel. We used to head out to the airport and man, we could drive right down through San Francisco and downtown and blinking yellow lights all the way through because there's no traffic. It just, you don't stop and everybody gets along or wherever. New York, same way. But, here we stop at 3 a.m. and there's one tumbleweed running through town. I try to flash bright, it's still like I'm used to it. I need to be some red lights on top or something.
I'll make a motion, we adopt the resolution.
Second.
Have a motion and a second.
I'd also like to make a motion to give Tim the screwdriver to adjust sensitivity.
Second.
Let's see what we can do.
I'd love to do it.
I'd like to put your phone number up with Tim's on the marquee.
Well, I mean, I did see I saw an article in the paper where Fort Smith was redoing their whole traffic transit deal. I mean, we're so fond of copying Fort Smith, I'd like to see what that thing's all about and see what they did, what they're trying to do. I mean.
Well, I can get with Greg Biswell, will be the guy that will be doing the install on this, so I can express to him the concerns and, we might be able to do something.
I can express to him my concerns about his traffic lights too. I got a bunch of them up there too, I'd like to talk about.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Hal?
Yes.
Daniel?
Yes.
Terry?
Yes.
Ms. Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Number 5 is Sunny Bell.
Council, this item is a request for rezone from R1 to R5 for lot 1A, lot 17, Bell's Addition. It's the lot that's on the corner of North Evergreen and East Lincoln. You have a photo there showing the house and garage as it was. Mr. Moss has removed the garage and has redone the little house showing there. The lot was split. You have a parcel map showing where the proposed duplex would be and the way that it will be facing the Evergreen Street. And would like to have your approval for the rezone of that property.
Is the Kinslover mayor signing some kind of under the table deal in his yard? Or?
I had nothing to do with that, sir.
They say that that's a permanent sign in there, and that,
It's not permanent.
every time that they remove it, another one appears.
I don't know, that's weird.
Kind of hard though. I mean, I can't stand our problem.
Yes.
What are you gonna do on first reading the title?
Nobody's paying any attention to what you got to
I
do.
I don't know.
It's 62.
Is it 6?
62.
Yeah.
6. That's my mic though. We're winning.
Yes.
Sorry.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous, all reading the ordinance. An ordinance amending ordinance 18-09 for the purpose of rezoning certain property in the city of Greenwood and amending the official zoning map of the city of Greenwood, declaring an emergency and for other purposes.
What was the emergency?
So the seller gets started on this, but
Yeah, we're.
the person that wants to purchase the property is here, Mr. Allen David. He would like his purchase the property with contingency of the zoning and the land court to go through so that they can finish the purchase of the property.
I guess I messed up on my original motion, Mr. Hambia. Should have had that probably stricken from there. We could have went from there and debated it.
Well, you could just
You
say
have to
first
vote on the
reading.
emergency.
Yeah, you don't have to vote to wait, so whatever.
Wait a second, third.
Well, the only reason only reason I'm even having this argument is for locals and everybody else to come and put their 2 cents worth in. That's the whole reason for the 3 reasons.
They've had the
Zoning
public hearing,
sign up.
and the sign's been up, it's been posted, letters went out, we haven't had any comment, I think.
My office has had one call, and I've returned that call and have not made contact with that gentleman. I know has an issue.
People that live around the area have no problem. In fact, 2 doors down, Mr. David built the duplex here on Lincoln Street, East Lincoln, down by Mr. Guy Moss's house in that area there. This will be basically the same construction.
I make the motion we waive second, third reading.
Second, Mayor.
Have a motion and a second to waive second and third reading.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lance Terry? Unanimous?
Make a motion to adopt the ordinance.
Second.
Have a motion and a second to adopt.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Tim Terry?
Yes.
Lance Terry?
Yes.
Unanimous?
Make a motion we enact emergency clause.
Have a motion. Do I have a second? Going once. No second? Motion fails for lack of second. Emergency clause.
So it would be in effect 30 days after the publishing date,
Okay, when we publish?
as soon as I can.
Next Wednesday?
Soon. Publishing date.
Okay,
30 days from the date it was published.
all right. And while I'm up here,
Yes, sir.
I've got control of the podium. I'd like to introduce Casey Craig.
Yes.
Casey, would you come up?
Sure.
This is Casey Craig. He is our new code enforcement animal control officer. He got his first taste of taking the skunk off today. And he has found out, and he has also found out that the cat group in Greenwood is strong and alive. So he's learning day by day that the trials and tribulations of animal control, but he's going to make a good addition to the city. Casey Craig, you got any questions for him? All right.
Welcome, sir.
Thanks, son. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
came up with the R5 zoning designation, mixed density neighborhood. All the discussion we had earlier about the new development, the streets, the water, the impact of sewer and so on. The R5 is to allow us to get mixed multi-density neighborhoods in the old part of town where we already have the streets, the sewer and the water. So that we can infill in neighborhoods where there hasn't been new building in generations in some cases coming in, that we don't put an additional strain on the city. You're now getting duplex, two sets of taxpayers, you're getting the additional property tax out of that, the street tax, all the other benefits of having increased occupation. But we aren't taking over one new foot of sewer, one new foot of street, one new street of water line coming in. And that's what we're trying to do with the R5. We're trying to do with R5 what they are doing with the entire new neighborhood from scratch. They're trying to do it in the old neighborhoods. And I can speak, the first rezoning we approved was a duplex across the street from my house up on Cedar Street. And that has been, Mr. Brown felt it, if you've been up Cedar Street, if you know Hackett in that neighborhood, it's been a real addition to the neighborhood. And we like it there. We'd like to see this spread throughout the old parts of town. And hopefully if we encourage developers now by approving these rezonings from R1 to R5, we can start getting them to look at old houses that need to be torn down and replaced with new houses. Single-family homes, cottage homes, duplexes, and even townhouses. If we can get the momentum for that going, and we all took a big step forward tonight in terms of approving this zoning. I think I speak for the planning commission saying thank you for doing that.
And us too, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Kim. Appreciate it. Number 6 is Police Department. It is a resolution amending the sworn personnel policy handbook, adding a towing services policy for the city of Greenwood. As I said, I was going to be pretty upset with Will if we lost the ball game. It's not over yet. Tom suggested I order him back a while ago because we were not doing so well. But anyway, this is a policy. The chief came in and visited with me a little bit about today, and then had it at our department head meeting this morning. And it's fairly lengthy, but I think it's going to serve a purpose on many levels. One, just giving guidance to the folks that are in line for towing to the police department. They get on a list, and I'm not going to pretend I know all of it, but
It's a rotation list for the police
it
department.
is a rotation list, correct. And it also has some restrictions, if you will, about the facility that these record services are located. What they look like, and how they look.
Dare I ask what's prompted this?
I think there's been a couple of issues. I think, again, he's not here, and I don't want to speak completely for him. I do know that he alluded to a couple of issues with the charging of services through the insurance company. One price would be given by our record service to the department, possibly, I guess, or the customer, and then it would be a different charge when it comes to the insurance company. The other issue, and I'll just be completely honest with you, is we have a facility here in town that is not kept up to par. And we've addressed it, Sonny, Mr. Bell's addressed it somewhat, so I don't want to put anybody on the spot specifically, but there's that has prompted this also. Yes, sir. Chief.
There's also making sure that they bring all their stuff for hazmat cleanup and keep it on the trucks.
Right.
Instead of showing up and saying, oh, we haven't had anything.
Yeah.
So that's really their responsibility.
And the chief took this from.
And then making sure they keep cars in the city. He said if a person has a accident in the city of Greenwood, and we have Greenwood people picking up their car, they shouldn't have to go out in the countryside to look to find their car. They should be able to stay here in Greenwood. It should be stored here.
Gotcha.
There's notice on item 7.
Yes, sir.
There's something about, should be, I think it should be rates. Instead of wages.
I would think, where is it?
Item 7.
Okay.
Sort of.
I think you're probably right.
received this.
Yeah, to be honest, again, I did not
How
read
about
it
we table it to the chief committee?
completely.
Yes.
We can do that. That's not,
Second.
there's no emergency.
Is that a motion?
I mean, that's easy.
Absolutely. I just wanted to put it to you. So we have a motion to second to table.
Yes. Mr. Brown?
I just thought
Yes.
Mr. Ralph?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Mister?
Yes.
Yes.
I just know there's a good nothing like this is, there's a good backstory to this.
Oh, I'm sure. More, and there's probably more than I'm aware
But
of.
I may be 100% for it, but I sure like to be there.
Sure. I can call him right now. But I think we should. He's at the ballgame.
Game's over.
And the game's over.
It's over. We win. Hogs win.
Yeah.
6-2.
6-2. Yeah, right about that.
Shall we?
Okay, so that is the end of the agenda. We are going to go back up to department reports and questions from council. Not everybody's here, but I think.
Well, I had Mr. Kraus on my list, but y'all mentioned the oak, or the, whatever road. Kraus?
Grouse.
Kraus?
Grouse. We do have a grouse, but he's not.
Will be.
Will be.
Will be.
Thank you. Good job.
And there is a backstory.
Yeah, for sure. I was just gonna ask about that road getting, because,
Live oak.
yes, right,
Yes.
Out in the Oaks.
right, yes, sir.
Yeah, and what we found is we've gone out there and we've dug up several areas that are bad. What we found, there's actually an old base course.
Right, yeah.
So that particular road would require 8 inches of compacted base. And we're lucky if we find an inch and a half, because that's what it is, it's inch and a half material. So it's not there. And it looks like that, there's quite a bit of clay involved in it. We have found some roots, just, stumps.
Field dirt, field trash.
They decay, creates a void. But that asphalt is flexible too. So when you don't have that base course on there to help support that, as it flexes, it starts to crack, water penetrates, and there you go. But we knew, I'm gonna say probably, about 4 years ago, when it come in on the upper end of there, where we've actually got the big zid. Company come in, I think, here, getting those pads ready to be built. And they were doing a lot of tracking, we had to get them off of it. So we've been chasing it, really the whole thing needs to be pulled up. We can keep chasing it and patching it as we go, but at some point in time, we're gonna have to do something.
This is our newest neighborhood.
Sorry?
This is our newest neighborhood.
If you recall,
It's had the most different owners though.
the slate was in 16, I had to fill in this interim. And we purchased a throwaway paper. And y'all kind of give me some flack about taking that throwaway paper over there in that addition at that time. But, I understand it's a new addition, one of the newest ones, and the roads are failing. It's not just, it's in more than that, but I think a lot of it too, that's kind of contributing to it, and we cannot help that because the roads should be built as such to withstand construction, concrete trucks, lumber trucks, rock trucks, trash trucks. And I know that, we have changed our trash service. So the trucks are a little bit bigger, so a lot of our shoulder problems that we're finding.
To our standard.
To our standard, they should be built to withstand all that.
So they weren't built to a standard.
There was a step skip, I'm gonna say. Everything I have dug up,
What step was skipped?
there is no base.
Okay.
No base.
So,
By our standards, in that subdivision, that was supposed to have 8 inches of compacted base at 100% compaction.
so the failure is when we issued certificates of occupancy on the neighborhood and it wasn't built correctly. That's,
Yeah, I don't know when that was built, I don't know, at the time whether it was fell back on.
But that won't happen with this.
Are you talking about who was fell back on as far as developer, or who was in charge of the inspections and planning and all that?
Well, I'm just trying to figure out the process and how this all goes, so.
well, that neighborhood was built by Branson Harris.
This Harris, did they not fall, did they not go under?
Branson Harris went under. He didn't have a bond. That was a failure on the planning department to not make sure that we had a required bond. That's where the conversation come up. Okay, from this point forward, when we get something like that, Mr. Hanby reviews the bond and makes sure it's actually a real bond and not a copy of a bond that was from somewhere up in northwest Arkansas, which is what we had. Now, all this we find out after the fact.
Right. Now, there was some California Yankee got involved in that at one point, either before or after.
Bob Holmes started that. He was from California.
You know, I don't, Doug had asked me earlier today, if I thought that it had something to do with, the drainage. And as far as, the drainage coming from the back of homes out to the street, because that's all curb and gutter box inlets. And I don't feel like that's it. You might be getting some penetration under it. With any road that's built, it doesn't matter how well you build it, you're still gonna find problem spots.
That whole subdivision was nothing but swamp to start with. I mean, growing up, that was nothing but a swamp out there. So it was, that's why all the detention ponds there, because they're trying to catch all that water that comes off of Bell Park down through there, and then when that creek flooded, for years, because I was like, man, I can't believe they're putting that kind of subdivision in there, you got airboat.
Well, it tells me if they were going through and if somebody was holding to the standards as far as hitting their elevations for the road design, to me, it's pretty apparent what the contractor done is they, instead of taking care of their 8 inches on base, they give you more on your sub grade. That's cheaper on them. So then when you come in and lay your 2 inches of asphalt, you get right back to what your grade you're supposed to be getting.
Jones Street just ain't the greatest, is it?
Sorry?
Jones Street?
I don't know.
From Denver to Live, basically.
Yeah.
It's pretty rough.
It's
like the same person did it.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
That was part of the deal, he was gonna redo that for the grand entryway.
I venture to say the trail in the Oaks has got a better base. No joke. I watched them build it in the streets.
Because when Jones Street was done and the sidewalk that goes down Jones Creek, they're about Johnson's properties, right there, and that curve, water stands about that deep, and then if it rains really hard, it runs over the sidewalk. So it was never, from the get-go, that whole deal, it's not your problem, and you've inherited it, that's
it's our problem.
So when they replaced the bridge on Denver, they fixed the street from the highway all the way to Jones Street. The state managed that. They said it was good, bad, pull it out, rip it out, and they did. They ripped out sidewalk and made a huge pyramid. But the city of Greenwood, us, we managed Jones Street and the Oaks. Now here we are with a big mess. So I guess the point is, there's a neighborhood coming up, and I think the planning department is looking at you to say, instead of maybe Don Keyes saying, well, that looked pretty good. Well, it didn't look pretty good.
We've got to set standards, and if you're going to build a road, depending on the type of road it is, that you're going to have to meet. And I don't think that's asking too much out of it. We want a good product. You're going to build some beautiful homes in that area. And, who wants to have a beautiful home with a messed up road? I don't think nobody does. And I think that, it's going to be done right.
Well, asphalt looks good when it's first laid down.
It's pretty black and shiny.
Yeah.
So what's the cost on fixing this right?
Well, I have not put a cost to it yet. You're talking about in the Oaks. It's something I need to sit down and, I mentioned to Doug that, I want to try to get a 2 or 3 year plan. I think it's work on the
I asked him
streets.
today, I've renamed the subdivision Patchwork just from the streets, and I don't mean to offend anybody that lives there. There's beautiful homes in there, but the road is just horrendous, and it doesn't take one drive through to see that we have patched multiple areas with either concrete or asphalt.
Yeah, and we really try to stay away from concrete, because at some point, if you come back and you lay asphalt over that, it's going to crack around and it's going to show.
So
This is a $600,000-$700,000 fix.
We could get an engineer involved. It could be as simple as just removing the asphalt. Maybe the subgrade is good enough. We can just pull up 8 inches, get our 8 inches of base back down, get it to 100% compaction, and then lay our asphalt back on top of it. It could be as simple as that. But, you know, what that cost would be at this point, I don't know.
He's got the money.
Well, I think that's really what we, need, like, will do that instead of just like saying, just going in every year, you know.
Well,
we always do
we got
just
some
patch.
issues out on Brighton Place. We've got curb and gutter coming up out there, same thing. The trash trucks, it seems like when they're pulling up and stopping, it's all that weight transfer. And on any road, typically, the shoulder of your road is going to be your weak point. It just is. Is it Brighton? Is it out here, Jack? No,
That's the one, yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Ashbury, Cove,
Yeah, so we've got, you know, some bad spots out there.
another swamp was built on.
And, yeah, but same thing, I'm the same thing out there, there's no waste force.
So sorry, Chad and I were talking today, and I asked him, kind of like what we're leading to, I think, headed, and I'm like, what do you think? Keep patching it, dig it all up and start all over again? I think it makes sense to get a price on that, to do exactly what he said. In the meantime, we certainly have to. I was passing a picture around. I don't know if you've been out there to see this particular.
We will
The
be
guy
digging it
almost
up.
cannot get out of his
We'll be
driveway.
digging it up.
So we've got to at least address each one as it happens, but at some point, you've stopped.
Is there any more homes to be built in there, or is it?
I think they're full, aren't they, Chief, according to, because no in and out plan, son?
Right.
Okay, because of that exit that doesn't happen on Main, they're at capacity.
You know, and I'm not saying it's not important to get it fixed, because it is, but, you know, we can continue to chase. Maybe it's something that we can look at 2 years, 3 years down the road.
It's not in front of Bradley's house, is it?
It
No,
happened
we have-
already. We've already fixed it.
We've already fixed that.
Oh,
It was right in front of the middle. This one is around the corner.
And there's some more
I like
running,
to make him sweat it out.
there's some more running showing right now, so it's just a matter of time.
This one's, no, never mind.
Well, that's what I really would like to is, have like a 2-3 year, you know, game plan where we just, do it right.
You know, that's something
Allocate
that,
money each year to.
yeah, that's something I'm gonna sit down and visit with Doug, kind of get a direction where
There's really 3 streets in there. One coming in and there's one coming around and then.
you know, you talk about in the Oaks, it seems like the middle road and the road, you know, to the west, closest to the creek, that does seem to be holding up relatively good. It's the main road in and the upper road. And those have been our issues. And plus, we have some sidewalk stuff we've got to redevelop. We've got trip hazards, the sidewalks,
It's just irritating, we're doing our newest neighborhood, and we've had people live here like Mr. McKinney, and we're redoing sidewalks in our newest neighborhood, and he didn't have sidewalks. I'd rather put sidewalks in front of his house than redo sidewalks over in someone that didn't even live here 2 years ago.
But if it's a trip hazard, we
It's a
have to
trip
address
hazard.
that.
I agree, I agree.
That
We own-
throws it into another.
At this point, we own the problem, and we've got to fix it.
Right.
I just don't want to repeat that
So
problem.
we're not. Are we?
No. No, I think that, you know, we have a standard, and I don't think it's,
We had the standard then.
I don't think it's too hard to meet.
Yes,
I think it's very attainable.
The standard we have now is the same standard we had back then.
Yeah, and that's the standard we're going to buy, and that's what we're going to hold up.
I play baseball, not personally, but I've coached against this guy, and believe me, when he says he's gonna do something, he's gonna do it, whether it's beat you into the ground with the Little League team. I know.
Well, it's just a problem
We
we
are.
are inherited, Chad,
We are.
you know, but that's what I'm saying. And I agree with what Rob said, but I think, it's still, when you have a street that is just, that they're having to just throw money at every year, you know, to me, it's best to try to just go in there and do it right and be done with it, hopefully for an extended amount of time.
Yeah, and of course, you know, we didn't have the money budgeted this year to do that. And of course, if we needed to do that, I'm sure we could come to you with a resolution, we could do that.
Well, I'm thinking, this is a time where, Tom says that we're running kind of ahead of our budgets and this is kind of the thing where we need to spend, probably surpluses on it, is things that really need to be addressed and be addressed, do it the right way.
But I know something we'd have to probably get Jeremy Shores involved with, probably, or, of course, it has to be put up to bid. So. And I know he's working on a lot of projects, so. But
We need to clone Jeremy.
right now, we're just gonna patch as we go, but we need to get it fixed.
We need to look at who's engineers some of these streets and these subdivisions along the plats.
All of them are the same guy.
Yeah. I don't know exactly.
All of his brother-in-law was the street department.
Can I say something on this? The issue is not the engineering of the plant. Is do we have a system where we have an engineer come back and approve the construction of the street? And I'm wondering if Andy might, other than the street department accepting that we actually hire an outside engineering firm, which is also bonded and insured, and their word goes down. It says this meets the standard. So we have a double layer. We would have both the developer's bond, which we need to check on. We then have a separate engineering firm that comes in and says this meets the approval. I'm putting my name down here and I'm liable.
I agree with you, Mr. McKinney, and I think that system's in place. And it's not up for us to enforce it. We were leaving that with the administration to do their job in the planning department and make sure that
I
happens.
don't think we have this engineering coming in, independent engineer coming in.
Several times you brought up the planning department, and us issuing COOs to these people who build houses out there. When the subdivision gets to a certain point, Tim comes to me and says the water lines are accepted. We accept it. I've inspected it. Greg comes in and says the sewer lines are inspected. I approve of it. We can accept it. The street department comes in and says, we have inspected this street. It meets our standards. So therefore, we will accept it. At that point, we issue COOs. The planning department does not inspect streets, water, or sewer.
So do we need to add this extra step and have a PE?
Either
Sign
that,
off
you
on it.
either have your street department director qualified to make these inspections, which we have been doing in the past, and we have failed, there's no doubt about it. But it's not the planning department, because they come to us and say, hey, we inspected it, and it's great, it's in good shape.
So Chad comes and says, street's great, we move on, and we accept the plan.
Exactly, that's the way it's been working.
So Mr. McKinney's saying maybe we ought to have a separate step where the engineer, the civil engineer comes in with his PE on the line, with his professional engineer
If I
on the
was
line.
if I was a street director and I felt like I needed that expertise, then that would be part of my budget, is to have a engineer that I could call in and say, I need you to do an inspection on this.
Well, I'm sure have a budget that the developer.
So Chad, where are you gonna feel comfortable when that subdivision comes in and he says, what do you think about the streets?
I'm gonna be out there when they're doing their work. So when they start getting their densities, I'm gonna look at the proctors, I'm gonna see their densities, I'm gonna make sure that they're meeting their compaction. And I should be able to think about it.
And he comes to me and says, I was out there, I looked at these, I agree with them, we will accept them under these conditions. And then we allow people to build, and we give them a COO to move in there.
So you think that requiring a PE to stamp it is too much? Both of you, I guess.
I don't, because as it stands right now, I'm taking their expertise, I'm taking Tim's expertise, I'm taking Greg's expertise to say that these have been done to their specifications, they approved it, they inspected it, and they're signing off on it. That's the way it's been done forever now. Have we have any problem with the water and the sewer? Not really.
Well, I know when they were doing the square, it seemed like they came back and did like random core samples, and verified, those, I
The
guess,
state, when they
densities.
did that,
Yes, I was wondering, is there anything that we can do to that to
I don't know.
do a random core samples to
I'm not sure, you
verify?
talking about on the asphalt itself?
Well, I'm just thinking, I figure you go down deep enough to the
No, they're
base.
basically just doing a core sample on asphalt.
Like I say, I'm not a street guy. I don't know.
If we go for 8 inches, there's a tool that you can make that we can go out there and drive and we can pull it up. It's hoping we can measure, make sure that after they water it and roll it, and try to meet that 100% compaction. We can test and make sure that they are retaining that 8 inches.
So the street department at the time that road was built came in and said, Sonny, I agree, the
Yes.
street's good.
We sign off on
We signed off.
it. I go by their expertise, just like Tim and Greg said. They tell me that the water and sewer lines have been inspected, they're in the ground the way they're supposed to be, and they sign off on it, then we accept it as a city. Anything after that, then we are responsible for the repairs. Again, I don't know how deep those lines are supposed to be, how far apart they're supposed to be, or anything like that. I rely on their expertise. And in that case, I relied on the street director at that time's expertise.
I think it's a good idea to examine or to look at an engineer signing off on it, whatever it is. I also believe that that engineer, from what I've seen and witnessed, which is not a lot, will rely a lot on, if it's a street, he's going to rely a lot on what Chad tells him. He may or may not even go out there. But if he stamps it, it's on him. But he's probably going to rely on Chad telling him, or in Greg's case, Greg or whoever, that this was done right. We've not had that process in place, and I don't see anything wrong with it. I think that's a good idea. Maybe it is that if Jamie's standing up now, I think he's offered to pay for that.
We actually did have part of that cost in-house.
Do you?
We
Okay.
got a third-party geotechnical engineer,
Okay.
and I think you probably know Buck
Buchanan.
over at Archon, planning on coming and doing all of the testing, and basically part of what he just said. So we'll have the subgrade tested, densities, compaction tests, everything will be done. Then we'll have our base rock tested, and Buck does 2 tests. He does density tests, and he does core samples of the base before the asphalt goes down. So the base rock, we'll submit a report before we pave. We've got that thickness, and that'll go directly to you. So we'll have the subgrade tests, we'll have the base rock tests, as well as the depth tests done. That'll go directly to you, and we'll do all of that before we pave. And then after we pave, we'll have the core and compaction samples done of the asphalt itself. So this is going to be built better than anything that's been built in Greenwood before. And it will be documented, recorded, tested, depths, everything, so that in 20 years, you guys can say that's how you build one.
Jamie used to work for a development company.
Yes.
What do you think happened on the Oaks, our newest neighborhood, that we're here now where people can't back out of their driveways?
Well, I'll be very cautious about what I say on that, because what happened is you got had. I'll just say that. That's what happened on that one.
But then it's our lack of inspection saying stop.
It's inspection. It's all inspection. You need a third party, which is, it doesn't necessarily have to be a PE, but it needs to be a geotechnical engineer because he understands dirt. He understands that. And that would be Buck. And that's who you need to hire every time we do any of this stuff, including what you're talking about doing at the Oaks. Because Buck will come out, he'll take some samples, tell you exactly what you need to do, give you recommendations. And that's what you need to go with, is what Buck says. Or you can use data testing. They do it too, but I would use Buck. He's less expensive and does just as good a job. But we provide that. We have that in our costs. He's third party. He doesn't work for us, even though we're paying him. He can report directly to Chad if needed. He doesn't even have to talk to us. Chad can order the tests. But we'll have everything documented, everything tested. Everything will be top notch.
When y'all build this neighborhood, I'm gonna be able to back out of my garden home on 217C and not drag the bottom of my truck on the big gigantic asphalt rut.
That's correct.
Okay.
But you 3 guys understand our reservations when you bring that up here.
And we want to.
We don't want that, we don't want to have that happen.
That's right, and we want to prove the old ways gone.
Big
And
money.
that's why we have testing money in our budget, so that we can document that we did it right.
That'd be great.
So on that, we continue, I, you, all, everybody up here continue to inherit or have inherited our forefathers' mistakes or lack of testing, lack of inspections, and we deal with it every day. And it is not, for sure, not that it's important for anybody to know, but it is not just on streets. I saw Greg kind of nod his head back there a while ago. We as a city, water, sewer, streets, anything that is put in the ground or on the ground is not always good. I mean, and we at some point find that out, whether it's due literally to lack of ability to put it in the ground, right, or whatever it is, or on the ground. So it's an ongoing task.
We have two people that work with us. Vernon Wilkie is our foreman. He used to work, he installed sewer and water line for years. He inspects everything. He washes the sewer line from start to finish because he's the one that's going to fix it. We have to do pressure tests on it, we do vacuum tests, we do flow tests, we do a test where we put a round thing through it to make sure that it hasn't gone bad. So we watch everything. So,
Well, like you said, Greg, in the past, when they were tying on the sewer, the process was just to knock a hole in the pipe and then just set that pipe in there. Not worry about, sealing it up around there for infiltration down the road.
That's before me and Vernon got here. Now they have to put it inline wide. And it's wide, and they have to have 245s, not just a 90, but 245s. And we have specifications for the type of pipe, because when you fix your sewer lines, you might only fix 50% or less, because a lot of that is the personal lines that come out. So we're trying to get better, they get all kinds of junk lines coming to them. So we have specific lines that have to be put in.
And this carries over into drainage. I mean, I witnessed, not as mayor, but as parks director for some reason, I just happened to be over there when we were digging up, we had a sinkhole on Daisy Street. And we went over the three guys went over there and found hot water tanks butted up against each other for pipe. I don't know, maybe pre-tornado, right after, I don't know. So it's an interesting game. The good news is about this is what he just said, for sure. And two, you've got a guy standing here that knows he's responsible for it for now. I mean, for however long he's planning on staying, hopefully a long time. But if it's not been right, he'll have to be out there fixing it. So hopefully.
But let me say this.
Yes, sir.
With all due respect to everybody. We've heard that for 20 years. I mean, I'm not saying Chad's going to do a bad job, Eric's going to do a bad job.
Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Everybody always says, this is the guy, he knows what he's doing, this is going to be great. And here we sit.
Mayor, you said,
And then these guys come in and want to build a neighborhood, and we're like, I don't trust any of you, and I don't believe anything you're saying to me because of this. I mean, it's a PE the way to fix it. I don't know. I don't know the answer to it, but there's.
Mayor, you say we inherited. Some of us inherited. Me and Daniel didn't inherit it. We were here, and I don't feel like
We were
did
part of
our
the
job.
I'm sorry, I heard two different things, but I'm gonna ask you to repeat what you said.
I mean, but no, we sat here the whole time going, we're okay.
Yeah, we're okay, and I don't, but that, we didn't do our job, because we didn't prevent. Chad standing up here talking about fixing our newest neighborhood, and me and Daniel were here when Bob.
We passed the ordinance in 2000 that said you can't park your car in the street.
Now, in all fairness, you inherited.
20 years later, we're still going, well, you can't keep people from parking cars in the street. Well, that ordinance has been there for 20 years.
Now, Chad has definitely inherited it, and you kind of get these questions, which are not
That's fine.
you.
That's fine.
But when the citizens come to me saying, why do you keep spending my money on stupid stuff, refixing brand new stuff, when I got stuff that's 100 years old and needs to be fixed? And I don't have a good answer for them because I'm not managing it correctly, I guess. Because me and Daniel were just kind of stupid.
Some of that stuff that's 100 years old, so that's better than the stuff that's 20 years old.
Exactly. It's amazing, the 100-year-old stuff is fine, and we can't build something
And
new.
those roads don't have that so-called 8-inch or 6-inch base, you know, depending on what kind of street it is.
It really,
But
really,
it goes back to
You know?
kind of like what Sonny said though too. I mean, here as councilmen, we rely upon, you know, what y'all say to us. Like Sonny says, you know, hey, the street department says, hey, pass inspection. You know, water department says pass inspection. We ask, is it bonded? We say, yes, it's bonded. So we assume then that's, you know, it's going to be a good bond. We assume that, you know, yes, you know, when we say, oh, are they going to have, you know, is it going to comply with, you know, our ordinances and stuff? And say, yes, you know. And so we have to rely on, again, you know, what we hear too. I mean, because we can't be here, you know, every day following, you know, the execution of everything and stuff. And so in some ways, we can ask the right questions, but then, you know, we can't go with the follow through and stuff. And so and so you want to have some type of checks and balances, you know, just like Jamie was saying there that, you know, you're going to have this third party and stuff there. Well, you know, that's great, you know, and say that, you know, we want that to be, you know, somehow recorded and, you know, and part there, you know, to say that, you know, it did happen and here it is, you know, and it's going to be here in our records from now on so that, you know, if something does come up 3 years later, whatever, we say, well, hey, wait, this is, you know, this is not up to standards.
The missing link seems to be the inspection, as Jamie said. I mean, we're,
Sure.
like I say, we've got the rules, the regulations, the ordinances, you know, Sonny says they met all of the standards, right? You know, the bond, everything's there. But that seems to be where we always go back to is everybody followed all the rules except that we didn't inspect the guy that didn't follow the rules. We didn't notice that he didn't follow the rules, or we overlooked that he didn't follow the rules or something. I don't know what happened, but you know what I mean? That inspection point that says, okay, you did everything according to the rules seems to be where we miss it.
It's because when you break the rules, there's no consequence in this town.
true. That's what it seems like. And I don't come across Jet in a way, I think he'll do a good
I
job.
understand, I've got to be
And I
understand your concern.
I think Buddy Lloyd, Jamie, and Sean are all gonna do a great job too.
Yeah, and you
It's
know.
kind of interesting that they're here when we're talking about we're having this discussion about our newest neighborhood, and they're gonna build a neighborhood, and we're discussing the guy that can't back out of his driveway because the street's
Right.
failing.
They didn't, we're gonna do that on our house, you know, they didn't do that.
Yeah, he's shopping.
So, you know, I've worked, you know, with Buck Buchanan before, worked with Buck a lot, to do build roads and paths and stuff, so, you know, I know his reputation, he's very good, Zach is,
But you need to deal with developers like Ronald Reagan, that's going to the Soviet Union. Trust but verify.
I agree.
Yeah, that's really true. I agree with that.
I agree.
so it's
And
not, you know,
and I say, people that were here, I mean, and I include Mr. McKinney in here with myself and Daniel, because you were here when a lot of this was happening. I mean, this is not something you inherited. You were here as well. And it makes me mad that mistakes have happened since I've been here, and they seem to continually happen. And I answer for it when I work at Citizens House. They say, why are you wasting my money? And I'm not really entirely sure.
This discussion over the years, several times has been, you know, does the city need to employ a civil engineer?
I think so.
You know, and everybody goes, gee, that's a lot of money. That road's a lot of money. We could have paid a civil engineer many times for what we're gonna pay for that road.
We already paid Jeremy Shores a lot of money just
Yeah.
to another company. Why not just hire Jeremy Shores?
I don't know, maybe you do.
even an engineer on a retainer fee.
That might work too.
We've had building inspectors on retainer fees.
I mean, it's the cost of non-compliance that's getting you.
And the city needs to think not, what do we need an engineer from Romley town to invest? Need to be thinking, we need an engineer because we're going to be a town for 25 minutes. It may be 25 more years. But you're dealing with the problems from 25 years ago. I know things when I was on the council, and my father spoke up, if we had only known then, we would have done.
Like a
We would have spent $100,000 20 years ago. We'd be avoiding $1 million.
I'd like to have been there when they made a decision to save a few $1,000s by deleting the clean out on the dam. And then all the rest of us suffered.
Which dam?
Well, the first one before the addition and then before the inflatable inner tubes were added.
And there were 2 dams, I think, before that.
What's great though is y'all have been able to keep air in the inflatable inner tubes, because I hadn't heard Joe Comer complain about being down in the bottom of the creek mining out gravel when a big Y50 flood's coming at him because one of them fell down.
They had temporary inflatable dam.
They had bypassed their air scrubbers that keep the water out. That's the first thing I had fixed. And we can actually go buy a $25 pump. If that pump was to break down tomorrow, we can go buy anything and hook it up to that, and it'll keep it pumped up all day long.
Yeah, y'all done a great job. Like I said, I hadn't heard Joe Comer complaining about that in a long time. Of course, my initial thought is, we should quit mining gravel out of our creek, which is against the law, you know. And maybe it would be good if you just got washed down the creek.
Well, Chad, I think if you can, give us a 2 or 3 year plan on that, I would really like to see that, and let us try to incorporate that to try to fix it right, and not just keep patching it.
Right. I'm glad you're here, Chad.
Yeah, thanks, Chad.
You're welcome. Thank you, sir. Anybody else out there?
Well, the only thing I've got written down here is traffic relief.
Sir?
The only thing I've got written down here, as we've gone through the night, I just tried to take a note from my council forum or wherever we're at. I was just wondering, we still haven't seen any sort of rendering or engineering schematics or any sort of map of how this thing's gonna go, or how many more stoplights we're gonna get, or overpasses, or flyovers, or we have no clue any of that engineering of this.
The $250,000 that is going to be issued to RDOT very, very soon through the bond company. We'll begin that process. They should have something.
They contacted me the end of last week, and they're sending the bill.
Does RDOT do their own engineering or do they sub it out?
I don't know who does it, but
I was so super excited to see how they pull this off. I mean, I just cannot wait.
Probably gonna be a stoplight by my house.
Let me just give,
But it won't work.
at last glimpse, I think there's 12 stoplights. I'm joking.
Start doing that.
I'm joking.
I have one, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You know what I want to ask?
Okay, I'm not sure.
Sidewalk down Tinsburg. Where are we at?
Okay, that's a good one. That's a really good one. So, we are this much closer. We had 36 easements to obtain. Danielle has done a superb job getting 33. I don't know what's wrong with her now. Joking again. Wow, you same look at that look. Damn. So, we obtained, with the help of Councilman McDaniel, Bradley Oliver's done, signed, sealed, delivered, and Danielle got them down here. That one's done. We are lacking, literally here in this building, of having Baptist Health, Church of Latter-day Saints,
Taco Bell,
Taco Bell,
Morlock.
Well, like I said, 33, so we've got, technically, we have 32. 'Cause there's
Well, we could do Church of Latter-day Saints, we could do a forfeit and not get
Right,
their
but
permission.
that's
we
not
can
yet,
talk to
but we
them.
don't have a literal easement, but, so, those are the 4 that we don't have an easement in hand. Those 4 I just mentioned. I had a conversation with a gentleman from Latter-day Saints in Utah today, and I told him I would trade him rain for an easement. They have no rain there. We joked, it was a good conversation. I thought I was talking to the man that would literally make it happen, and I talked to the man that's gonna talk to the man to make it happen. Just finds out. He said, he asked some questions, and Sonny was in the room with me along with Danielle, and we talked, and he just asked general questions. We looked at the easement on the computer with him, and pointed out a few things. That's a real basic one. That's about as basic as you get. There's a couple of little obstacles in the way. To quote him, as before we hung up, he said, I think we're going to get this taken care of for you. I will turn it over to the attorney and let him look at the word, the verbiage and the easement, and there may be a tweak or two that he wants to come back with. So I'm feeling pretty confident about that one. That one, even if we don't get that taken care of, Jeremy Shores has assured me per grant and per RDOT and everything, we can go to a 4-foot if we have to, because only a foot of it is on their property. We'll get in the highway easement and be good, but I would much rather have a 5-foot and get the easement signed. So I think we're there. We're close. Taco Bell, Danielle has communicated with them on and on and on again. They have still some.
It's on the, okay, so Taco Bell, it's on the desk of the attorney.
There you go.
And with their tenant, which is K-Mac, which is in Northwest Arkansas. He said that he's just been real busy and he'll get to it. I again emailed, so the contact that I'm talking to is in.
Do what? Say again, I'm sorry.
The contact that I'm talking to with Taco Bell is in California.
Yeah.
And so they're just kind of taking, and these are easements that I have been emailing and talking to on the phone since September. And we talk at least twice a week. And so I checked in with them again today with Taco Bell, tried to push again that I have a mayor and city council who really, really want to get this accomplished. And we are down to the final. I did not hear back from Taco Bell today. Baptist Health is also in Pennsylvania. Again, I've dealt with the same man since September of last year. Again, it is on someone's desk and he's trying to push it through. But that's where we are. Morlock is not interested whatsoever. I have talked to Mike about it and sent Mike the information, and he is going to send them a letter stating this is what we're left with. You know, we may have to do a lawsuit of
So
some sort.
the worst one is that one.
The Morlock one. And that one we cannot do a forfeit.
I've discussed it with Danielle, and unlike those other attorneys, I do contact her back frequently.
Yes.
No, she scares me. I've decided that.
That's a wise.
I've decided if I cannot get it done, then I'm gonna hire Daniel. I'm moving worse than he can.
What is Danielle's title here at the city?
She is my executive assistant and HR director.
And getting
Easements?
easements is in her job description.
It is because I told her to do it.
Thank you. Thank you.
It, what it is,
You're
Tim,
okay.
is her, I mean,
I agree.
I'm quite certain that is not in your job
it is.
description.
It is not.
It is, well, at the bottom of it, it says in all other duties assigned by the
It
mayor.
is not, but I do have some downtime quite a bit.
You're not getting the badge
It
like
does
the
say
chief.
that. No, I know, but, so I do have time to work on
And
this,
because
even
of
though
the-
it is not my area.
And these 3 that, or the 4 that we're talking about, and as often as she calls and emails them, she hates me right now because as often as she's doing it, I say, we'll do it one more time.
Right.
So it's 3 or 4 times a month. And have you emailed them today? No, I did yesterday. Well, let's do it today. So it's just a constant.
You are the king of the squeaky wheel,
I
I
am,
must say.
I am that. So it's a barrage, and so because of,
Well, the other side's
I've
comfortable
talked
with
to
her now, so at this point, I mean, there's really no reason not to continue using her.
oh, absolutely.
What was
There's
that?
no-
The other side you've been talking to knows you and is comfortable with
Yeah.
you now, so
Oh,
y'all have.
yeah.
And she has a relationship on the phone with these folks,
Sure.
and they know who she is, and maybe that's not good
See,
anymore.
then when we started Danielle, we started this together, and I grabbed up all the easements,
Yeah, I did.
took off running.
That's, I don't doubt that one bit.
It's the difficult ones and the stubborn ones that she has been able to be on the phone with. And it's not because she doesn't have other things to do, she does all that other stuff too, but she is there at the desk with the phone, and when she's not on it talking to him, I try to do the same. But the stubborn one, the one that we may literally have to lean on Mike here, Mr. Hamby on, is the Morlock one. I have talked to those folks. I've not got to speak to the people that own the property. I've talked to the mother-in-law who lives here, who is kind of responsible for the renter. Their issue is this, if I'm saying this right, is that they don't, Danielle actually talks to the lady that owns the property.
No, I talked to, okay, so the easement's name is in Michael and Edgar Morlock, which is a father-son.
Right.
I
It's his wife.
actually went to school with Michael's wife, and so that's how we started communicating,
Yeah.
because I had mailed it numerous times, we didn't have phone numbers. So I'm like, hey, I know the wife, I'll just get on here, we graduated together. And so she and I have talked numerous times, and this last time, she actually responded back to me, and we had a conversation back and forth. So she is not comfortable with the way that the sidewalk is going to run so close to the house, because if you'll notice, when you drive by that house, it's right next to O'Reilly's, the drop is very significant down. And so it's going to be sidewalk, grass, ditch, and then road, and so that puts it really, really close to the house. And she's not comfortable with her renters having a sidewalk that close. They've already dealt with someone walking by that broke into it several years ago, and so they're just not interested. What she wants is for us to get culverts and put it all in the ditch, which Jeremy Shore says is not going to happen because it is very expensive. I did tell her that there is a culvert going to go in where, from O'Reilly's to that house where it turns. Yeah, but that's not good enough, so.
And the reason, and it was kind of interesting, the comment, if I remember from what you told me, was that she said, we already have people walking there.
Yes.
We don't want a sidewalk, so they're not gonna stop walking there if there's not a sidewalk. At least there would be a place for them to be and not be. And it is very, very close. Now, that house is close to the highway. It's closer than anything else down through there. So.
Mayor, that's phase one from City Hall to Golden Years Retirement Center.
Not from City Hall.
From
Phase one is from Dr. Singer's.
Dr. Singer's
to Golden Years on that side. On the other side, it's from Storecraft back to Denver again.
Okay, so we're down to 4. So phase 2, which we're approved for,
Yes,
is from Golden Years to Walmart.
correct.
So where are we at on attaining easements in phase 2?
Haven't started.
We're not doing that yet.
Okay.
And RDOT is aware and knows where we are.
Yeah.
Do what?
So we can't get the first one done.
Exactly. So it's,
So how do we just by legal means go and deal with this Morlock situation?
I'm sending them a letter that I hope will get them to at least correspond with an attorney. And then once I have an attorney on the other side, then I think that this will be resolved. It's so complicated, it's expensive. I went over with Danielle Dennis, really, really, kind of know what my plan of action is, and hopefully I'll know something about the next meeting. We're going to be able to scare somebody.
No, they usually throw the term eminent domain around all the time.
Well, that's the term I'm using,
the idea of putting in a culvert in just the, by the way, the design of all of this, phase 1, phase 2, phase 3, any of it does not include a culvert anywhere to fill in a ditch. If it did, I'm not an engineer by any means, but I can pretty good confidence say that if we did that way the whole way, instead of $600,000, it probably would have been $3 million. Now, one of these days, as you all know, this will be ours, whether we like it or not, it'll be ours, and it'll be a different story as far as this. No, it's not our job to give us our time, it's the property owners. And the difficulty is with the Morlocks, and maybe it might not be any different if they live across the road, but they're in Texas. So they're in Texas, we got Utah, we got California, so different mindset, if you will, about some things. But this one's a stickler, and I know it's going to take Mr. Hamby to get some action Because when they say, I believe, if I'm not right, they said, because I wanted them to give me, what is it that you would want? What is, you know, is it $1 million or, and they're like, we're not interested.
No thanks.
No, thank you.
That's what I got.
I didn't offer $1 million, I'm just saying.
I
So,
talked to some of the family, and I think that's all you can get.
what's, just a note, I think that sounds like it. Now, the mother-in-law was very hopeful. When I got off the phone with her, because she manages that house for them, the rental property. And she's like, well, I told her about our situation, because she called me for a favor. And you didn't get? No. I did. I helped her, because I thought that'll spur this.
Sure.
And guess what? It did not. It did not at all. So, and I was absolutely not obligated to do that either, because that's a state highway, but we did. We thought, we'll try kindness. Kindness didn't work. So she is on the mindset that that's crazy not to do that, not to allow you guys to build this sidewalk.
I need to go back up there and pull that stuff up.
Maybe. Well, check with me next week after Mr. Hamby gets there, when he makes his letter. So anyway, that's where we are on it. It is about as frustrating as you can possibly get. We can get, and Danielle has worked endlessly. Sonny began the process, got the easy ones done, and we're all in this together. And it's very, and I get so angry when I see another person walking on shoulder thinking, I told the gentleman from Utah today that we're trying to prevent deaths. This, I said, I don't know if you know what this looks like in Greenwood, Arkansas, because you're in Utah. And he said, well, I'm looking at this. But I said, this is 99% due to a residency, elder, whatever it's called down there, that have citizens walking on our highway, and there was a death. I told him years ago. I said, but this is major. Again, we can build it, and it doesn't mean they absolutely have to walk. You know, that's still up to them, but at least we provided a safe spot. So I don't know that me talking, and I will make a call to Morlocks and say the same thing. I don't know if it'll fall on deaf ears or not. It might. In fact, I'll do that prior to your letter.
Already done a letter already.
Okay, well, I'll do it tomorrow. I kind of like to do that step, just to give it a shot.
They won't give me a number.
Oh, I thought we had a number.
No, she will not give me.
Okay, never mind. Proceed, sir.
Yeah, go ahead. You want to drive down and deliver, or
I'm not
I'll wait
going
you?
I'm not going to, no, I just got back from Texas. I don't know.
What part of Texas?
They're in Spring, Texas.
So that's where we are. And RDOT assures me, without a shadow of a doubt, we're not missing out on anything.
I don't know if the state will allow me.
Phase 2, we have started the process. We've not chased easements, but we have gone in a virtual meeting with them as part of that first step.
We got a bigger drainage ditch for the
Greenwood Phase 2.
Danielle, I appreciate your diligence.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate that.
Yeah, I just, it's very aggravating, probably more than anything I've dealt with.
And I just remembered I was supposed to get you something, and I'll get it to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
I read it on my.
Yes.
Update real quick, and there's other department heads here, if anybody want to ask, is it okay to? So I was asked by Joe Goldstein, no, Tammy asks me every day. And I thought I had something here in my hand, my hot little hand, that Mr. Hamby advised me that the wording, verbiage in the contract, the confidential settlement and release of all claims with McClellan is finally in my hand. And you have approved this? You're okay with it?
Hours is, many hours on
Yep.
the call, once the door.
Thank you. I can't believe you put us in that position.
Well, I told him I was a student, I've been around 35
Right.
years, trying to pull a strict on. I said, I'm not gonna have this come back to my house.
So we
He
now,
finally agreed to take it out.
good. That's a former mayor, by the way. See how those guys are.
Former mayor,
Little Rock.
Former, yeah. So we have the document. So now we need to get my signature and get it back to them and
Council doesn't have to approve it, do
I don't
they?
think so. We're in line to get a $126,000 check back to the Parks
We
Department
just need to get it done.
for the
Safely.
hoopla
We have money.
from phase 2 of that, so.
about our other big lawsuits?
Sonny and I are still, you mean on me and Sonny and the city? I'm not sure.
I
We're not still gonna
ready,
get
I'm just
a
waiting.
orange jumpsuit in the mail.
I haven't heard a word.
Are you talking about the trees?
No. Oh, I'm sorry, is that what you're talking about?
No,
Yes, he did.
the
Mr.
Uber up on Main.
Mr. Brian Smith?
Every time I talk to the municipal league, they say, well, it's in the judge's corner over
Just
there.
from the back exit from the Oaks, the property we own.
Yeah.
How much does Brian Smith want?
No, there is no, it's not about money.
He just wants me to leave him alone.
You just,
Not ever,
just,
not ever say
am I
a
right?
letter.
I mean, I know there's no amount.
There's no monetary
No.
judgment.
And he wants us to quit,
Mr. Brown is a good friend of his, so be
wants us
nice.
to quit tapping his phone and his emails, and I think.
Just the fence, inside the fence guy?
Yes, yes.
And of course, the church is asking too, and the school and
Farmer.
and Farmers Bank. And he's got how many records on Doug and I?
If y'all knew the stories of half of what he's told me, it's just, it's
Well,
wild.
it's not, it is serious for sure, because lawsuit's a lawsuit, but it's enough to where there was a gentleman here today installing, what was he doing? We were putting wire.
Casey's new phone.
Casey's new phone, and he was going all through the building, putting wire in the ceiling. I didn't know him from anybody, and I just stopped him and said, do you know Brian Smith? He goes, no, sir, and I said, okay, good. I thought maybe he'd sent him down here. Anyway, so if that's the lawsuit, that's, we don't know. I mean,
Our other lawsuit,
I'll let Mr. Hamby.
we're still waiting on some estimates on the Long Valley Pines. And, who's I talking, was that Tammy that I was talking to then?
Well, you and I just talked about it.
Maybe it was you. I talked to some of the people.
And Ralph is the one that suggested
Ralph
it.
is the one that's supposed to be
On
giving
that.
the figures. And once I have that, then I think that I can get it resolved.
We've not been contacted, we have not contacted.
I've talked to the, not the attorney that sent the letter, but I talked to the partner and had a long conversation with him and kind of gave him an idea of my thoughts on it. And he said that sounded reasonable, and then we with the partner, that would be something that they would consider. But I can't move forward on that until I get the estimate.
This, I sent Tammy and the mayor, the same thing is going on down at Lake Maumelle. Probably
Yeah.
where they
Yeah, there's
went into the
Couple, three
conservation
places.
area.
Then, Harry, you posted on that one too. Yeah, I'm watching that one.
They heard there were no consequences from Greenwood, so they figured it out.
Yeah, the three, and I think they're all national forests, which is a huge deal. Okay. So, we're council forum, obviously have been for a while. Anything from, again, yes, sir?
Just census, real brief.
Yes.
They don't have numbers on local populations. Numbers are trickling in. We got some numbers last week that I thought was kind of interesting what these guys are doing. Why this came out when it did before other stuff. Average price of a home built in the U.S. last year was $398,000. These guys are looking at average houses, $275,000 to $300,000. So that kind of shows you another advantage we've got in Greenwood, America, that we're going to build nice houses people can afford for a whole lot less than what they do in other places around the country. I thought that was kind of interesting. I'm on the list, so as I find a number, well, there it is.
Does anybody else follow Zillow, our own home prices on Zillow?
Look at it sometime.
Mine jumped $50,000 between March and the 1st of June. Went from $250,000 to $300,000 in that 3 months. Now Zillow has lots of issues and questions. There's something trending.
Well, I
on
know
that.
real estate here, and there's nobody here from real estate, I guess, but from what I understand, if there's a house listed for 220, you better offer 230 or 240, or you're not even gonna, you're not even
Talk
gonna.
about local population listings, most of the people selling the road houses, got the middle bit out, or you
Also, if you want a new car, there's no new cars on the lot.
Yeah, I just came back from Texas, and it was like,
Yeah, Ford
Ford
gives you
dealership,
$1,000 to wait
like
6
$10.
months.
I went to work and just out of curiosity, see what they would give me on trade in. And they gave me $2,000 more than what I paid for it.
And you got-
I'm like $2,000 miles on it.
I never ended up on that.
No, I'll go to, we go another vehicle, we'll try to both of them.
My price might not, they discover how much lumber I have in my workshop. So that increase the
Cool.
value.
Yeah, okay.
Council have anything further?
I have just one for
Yes, sir.
Chad, where, as far as our drainage over here in the corner of the parking lot. I think the chief was one that said he's wanting another 10-foot also, as far as over there. Have you had a chance to look at that?
We're actually, we're talking about doing something maybe with parks a little bit on that or something, and having something back there with some skate stuff. And
So you
concrete.
skateboard.
So not necessarily a park, but maybe a beginning of different features around, I guess, the trail system or something. I don't know. But anyway, maybe round one with an extension behind the fire station, with concrete, so the drainage go off there and they can do something, whatever they want to do with that.
Okay.
Whether they decide. So we're, I've got to get a good concrete guy in there, make sure it's compacted. But if you remember, they had to take out a lot of bad stuff in that field when they put our concrete in back here. So that's my biggest concern, is not getting just a guy that says, oh yeah, I'm going there for concrete, because we know that they probably took out 8 feet when they did that back corner of all that old field. So we're going to have to find somebody who knows what they're doing, put that in, or whether they're having concrete like this.
Oh, well, were you talking about also, were you thinking about paving in front of the fence there too, or you said something about you needed one, like another 10 feet?
I'm just talking about 10 feet back. I don't want in front of the fence behind the fire station, because that's where we do all of our extrication, cars and stuff, and the hole drips out of the cars that we cut open. That's a good place for it, so we don't have to worry about it going all over the pavements.
Oh, sure, those screw
Unless
balls
you guys want
around.
to move that fence back into the street. It's been working well, but it's been a lot of glass and stuff comes over the cars.
It'll filter out when it gets to the old landfill out there.
True, that's true.
What's wrong with moving the fence back a little bit?
Me? I don't have a problem.
I have a problem with that.
That's his area.
Yeah.
That's Chad's.
What's that? So what's wrong with moving the fence back a little bit?
You mean for where you do the extrication?
Yeah, from the, yeah, the fence right there that's next to the dumpster.
Behind the dumpster.
Yeah, yeah, it runs behind the dumpster.
Do you need more room there too? Is that what you're, I haven't heard that.
Yeah, that's what he was just saying, it'd be nice to have that little bit.
No, they were asking me why we had it paved to the fence, and I said, we need that area for cutting cars. So
Yeah, he doesn't want it there.
I want that paved.
I thought
you said you
I
wanted.
said, if you want to move the fence back some, we could pave more back there, but right now, we need an area between the fence.
But you don't, but if
It's
we,
not there.
if you pave where you do extrication now, and we move the fence back, oh, you're saying pave more there and then move the fence back, so you
If
have
they want more
green.
pavement back there, I mean, I don't have a problem with that.
I don't think there's an issue too much with moving it if we needed to, is there, Chad? I mean,
I'm sure Sonny would be glad to do it.
I think the main thing was to
Pave the whole thing.
make everything covered up back there.
Yeah, just saying that, I mean, you just have to move some stuff around.
Danielle may not be busy.
Yeah, she is. I can put that on her.
Now, PT, I really liked you all ago.
One more easement to get upstairs.
10 foot from the street department. So we didn't even pass a compaction test building on Firehouse Pad? Do what?
I don't
I said,
know.
we didn't pass a compaction test building on Firehouse Pad?
No, I said we had to take a bunch of it out.
Right.
Well, no, it passed. That's what they did in inspection. They did the testing. The testing said it had to be removed before we ever built it.
No.
Yeah, so, no, that was done with an engineer and architect. We paid them very well for doing all that.
Anything else for anybody?
Second.
Hold up. Wow. I want to say again, welcome Casey.
Yeah.
You got, wow, good luck to you, sir. 2 baby skunks today, and by the way, right before you came, I was out hauling hot dogs, 2 different cages, me and the hunter. So, yes, sir, we came with the dog. Oh, animal control. So, but I'm hoping, not hoping, this is also gonna happen. I'll make a public promise too, with Sonny's help and with Casey and out there doing it and trying, and finally figuring out a system of writing citations. We're gonna start doing some cleanup around town. businesses and residential. So hopefully you'll start seeing some differences with this process that we're
Started today.
started today.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Took the guy that had the hardest job in Greenwood and made it a little bit harder.
Exactly. So, but look at him, who's gonna mess with him, right? So thank you for everybody. And by the way, keep, and I know Lance has not asked me, he wouldn't ask me, but keep Earl in your prayers. Lance's dad, they had an accident, they were good, but there's, as far as all the other issues. And remember our community as things happen. We lost a young lady, 10 years old, 9, drowning incident. Keep that family in your prayers. And a gentleman that I became acquainted with about a year ago who was unbelievably nice to me. He and his wife bought my parents' house up on Division, thank you, a couple of years ago. He was the gentleman that was killed in the cement truck in Van Buren Friday, just doing what he did, driving. Somebody plowed in the back of him and it killed him. So they're residents here at Greenwood. Just stuff like that happens. But keep all those folks in your prayers. Thank you, everybody. And we have a motion and a second. All in
Mr.
favor?
Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Powell?
Yes.
Mr. McDaniel?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Yes.
Mr. Terry?
Thank you. Sir.
Hey, we got out at 9:35.
Four items on the agenda.
You're on my list.
It was good, now,
We all stayed to the better end. Stuck out.
Oh, okay.
You're very, almost
You
says,
may not even know us.
almost says you're very astute. Yeah.
You know,
That's not. These aren't just houses, you know? Well, no. Anything, everything but everything but yeah, no. We didn't get somewhere, excuse me, guys, I got a recorder up there.